The Throne of the Mechas. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 376, Full Body Mechanical Prosthesis. On the way to the Silver Moon Hotel, Carlos, an advanced artificial intelligence created by the Manco people, proposed to Xia Xingchen that he wanted to create a mechanical body and live with humans. He wanted to try to integrate into human society and become a real human and become Xia Xingchen's true partner. Xia Xingchen was a little embarrassed because Carlos's identity as an advanced artificial intelligence was too sensitive. If they were not handled well, they would become the public enemy of mankind and be hunted down by all mankind. Xia Xingchen racked his brains while driving, and Carlos also used all his computing resources to find a reasonable way to cover up his identity in the database. Carlos suddenly shouted, "I have Xingchen, look at this." Before he finished speaking, a large piece of information was transmitted into Xia Xingchen's mind. Full body mechanical prosthesis. Xia Xingchen's eyes lit up. Full body mechanical prostheses were first introduced to treat ALS. ALS, also known as amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, is also called motor neuron disease, MND. It is a type of motor neuron disease. It is a chronic progressive degenerative disease that affects the upper motor neurons, brain, brainstem, spinal cord, and the lower motor neurons, cranial nerve nuclei, anterior horn cells of the spinal cord, and the trunk, limbs and head and facial muscles they control. It leads to gradual weakness and atrophy of the muscles including the bulb. The so-called bulb refers to the part of the muscle controlled by the medulla oblongata, limbs, trunk, chest and abdomen. Clinically, it often manifests as mixed paralysis with damage to the upper and lower motor neurons. Clinically, it often manifests as mixed paralysis with damage to the upper and lower motor neurons, and often dies within 3 to 5 years after the onset of the disease. Stephen Hawking, the most famous physicist and cosmologist on Earth, suffers from this disease. The age of onset, adult type, is 20 to 80 years old, with an average of 57 years old, and male patients are twice as many as female patients. It is hard to believe that humans have not been able to determine the cause of this disease for thousands of years, so there is no way to talk about treatment. Later, with the rapid progress of mechanical technology and biotechnology, humans finally invented full-body mechanical prostheses. That is, except for the human brain, all other organs and limbs are replaced with mechanical ones. The human brain is placed in a special nutrient solution, which provides the nutrients needed by the brain, while the neurons in the cerebellum and brainstem are connected to the control system of the mechanical body, and the body is controlled by neural electrical signals. This kind of full-body prosthesis does not need to eat, as long as it is regularly charged and supplemented with nutrient solution. Later, as the technology became more and more mature, full-body mechanical prostheses are now not only used for patients with ALS, but also those who have suffered serious physical trauma, or those elderly scientists, and even some scientific madmen or force madmen, will choose to use this method to transform the body. However, full-body mechanical prostheses also have their limitations. The first is the high cost. The price of the most common full-body mechanical prosthesis is more than the cost of entering the biocabin for a year of treatment. The bulk of the cost is the drugs used in the operation and the nutrient solution needed to configure the brain, which is difficult for ordinary people to afford. Another problem is that the success rate of full-body mechanical prosthesis surgery is not high, with only a 20% success rate. There are only 5 doctors in the entire galaxy who can perform full-body mechanical prosthesis installation surgery. Great, you can create an identity online. In this way, you can live in the human world as a human. And no matter how unhuman you are, no one will doubt you. Xia Xingchen was also very excited. But there is also a problem. I can handle the online identity, but I still need a written paper identity certificate. Human society is very wary of mechanical civilization. Therefore, only with a paper identity certificate signed and stamped by one of these 5 doctors can I obtain all the rights as a human being, and will not be suspected. You may have to talk to the 5 doctors and find a way to get them to issue me an identity certificate. They are the only ones in the entire galaxy who are qualified to provide such a certificate. Carlos was somewhat helpless. He had no way to deal with things outside the internet, which was also the reason why he longed for a body. The information of the 5 doctors came to Xia Xingchen's mind, and Xia Xingchen's eyes lit up. Carlos, what do you think this is? Xia Xingchen took out a paper certificate from his portable mecha space and put it into the artificial intelligence space. This is a paper document made of special paper with a personal seal and a signed name on it. What is this? Yes, this is a blank ID that Dr. Lila gave me. I have two. You should be able to imitate Dr. Lila's handwriting and fill in the information yourself. You can use the number on it. It turned out that Dr. Lila had prepared this thing for Xia Xingchen when he was at the base of Jiaozi, saying that maybe one day he could use it, and now he really used it. Thank you so much, Xingchen. I'll get the body fixed right away. Dr. Lila has the highest success rate for surgery, which can reach 35%. The certificates he issues are recognized by the entire galaxy. Xia Xingchen continued to drive the car. At this time, huge changes took place in his artificial intelligence space. Several robots were picked out from the pile of robots and were quickly decomposed into their most basic parts. The parts of several robots merged with each other, deformed, and slowly became brand new parts. Then, these parts began to reassemble again. 10 minutes later, a brand new robot appeared in the artificial intelligence space. Xia Xingchen was a little stunned. In my artificial intelligence space, I'm a god. I can deform materials at will and form the machine I want. More than an hour later, the huge figure of the Silver Moon Hotel could be seen from afar. Around the hotel, a large-scale market town has been formed. Xia Xingchen stopped the car next to a building complex. You two wait for me, I'm going to pick someone up. After saying that, he got out of the car and went into a small alley. Not long after, Xia Xingchen led a robot over. The robot was about 190 centimeters tall and painted blue and white. The entire body of the machine was full of powerful lines. The face was made of polymer materials, looked like a human, and could simulate human expressions. Xia Xingchen sat down in the back seat, and the robot sat in the driving position. He drove away. This is Carlos Grumman, a man with all mechanical prosthetic limbs. You are also my friends. I will introduce you all to each other when we get to the hotel. Takeda, Kenichi and Nina looked at each other in surprise. Chapter 377 New Partner. The car drove into the parking lot of the Silver Moon Hotel. Xiaoli had been waiting here early and led them back to the room. Keela, Baum, Julian, Ugoff, Yangma and others were all there. Keela and others were very surprised that Xia Xingchen went out to assassinate one person, but brought back 3 people. Their team has grown again. Xia Xingchen greeted everyone one by one. Since Wan Ke and Xiaoli were here, he still concealed something. Let me introduce you to our 3 new partners. They are all trustworthy. Xia Xingchen pulled the 3 people in front of him in the living room. This is a kendo master and a sea-level mecha master, Kenichi Miyamoto. He is now a samurai loyal to me. Kenichi Miyamoto stepped forward and bowed to everyone. I'm Kenichi Miyamoto. Please take care of me. This is the unique way of greeting of the Japanese people. Xia Xingchen then introduced. This beauty is Nina Christie. She is a sea-level mecha master. She is. Nina didn't wait for him to finish and came forward and hugged Xia Xingchen's arm intimately. I'm the slave girl of Boss Axing. Nice to meet you. Everyone present was shocked. Although Nina had put on makeup, she was still very beautiful. Such a beautiful slave girl, with such powerful strength, was willing to be Xia Xingchen's slave. The men present were all excited and wanted to torture Xia Xingchen where he got such a beauty. Carlos came up. This robot brought a strong sense of oppression to the people around him. No one would doubt its powerful performance. Guys, this is not a robot, but a living human being. Carlos Grumman, an interstellar traveler, and this is a full-body mechanical prosthesis. Mr. Collis has traveled to most planets in the galaxy and was seriously injured in a serious spaceship accident, so he underwent surgery by Dr. Lila. Fortunately, he succeeded. He is an excellent spaceship pilot, navigator, captain, spaceship maintenance technician, mecha maintenance technician, and a sea-level mecha technician. You should know that he is only 50 years old this year, but his special body structure allows him to have more time to learn knowledge. Carlos had already told Xia Xingchen what this mechanical body could do. The reason for choosing him is that this person really exists. He is an interstellar traveler who had an accident in the Death Star field 10 years ago and is dead, but no one knows that he is dead, so Carlos used the identity of this person with the same name. Carlos strode forward, clasped his fists and said, "Hello, I'm so excited to see you. Please rest assured that I will not be a burden to you." After that, the sound of the motor on his mechanical body sounded, and the ultra-thin polymer armor on the outside of his body opened one after another, and many weapons stretched out from his mechanical body. Looking at the cold and shining weapons, everyone understood what it meant to be armed to the teeth. After a sumptuous dinner, everyone went back to their rooms to rest. Keeley and Xia Xingchen hid in a guest room to discuss what happened before and after his assassination. He did not hide the identities of Miyamoto Kenichi and Nina from Keeley. Of course, he did not tell Keeley about the portable mecha space and artificial intelligence. This was his biggest secret, and he could not tell even the closest people. He is not strong enough now. In the eyes of many people, he is now like an ant. He will not let anyone know until he has enough power to protect himself. He kept in mind the principle that a man is innocent, but guilty of possessing a treasure. Keeley was shocked after listening to Xia Xingchen's description. He knew that this was due to Xia Xingchen's personality charm. He has a unique temperament that makes people trust him and gives people a sense of security. Keeley also informed Xia Xingchen about their activities on Hellstar these days. Several people have been wandering around the slave market for many days, but there are too few slaves who are suitable to drive spaceships. Since the war between the Northern Empire and the Galactic Empire, many wealthy people have purchased spaceships and slaves to leave a way out for themselves. Therefore, slaves with good driving and maintenance skills are very popular. Moreover, these days, based on the intelligence from various channels, there is a force, a very large force, that is going to take action against the Xiumo family. The core of In family is likely behind this force. Xia Xingchen thought silently for a long time, and Keeley did not dare to disturb his thoughts. After a long while, he raised his head and said, "We have to buy the spaceship. Now we have more and more companions, and the evil mind is simply overwhelmed. Besides, I have a hunch that Gemini will soon be in a bloody storm. Even if we want to avoid it, sometimes it is not possible to avoid it. We have been involved since we have contact with the Xiumo family. Let's just take advantage of the troubled waters and make a big profit." Xia Xingchen now has the help of Carlos, the artificial intelligence, and is capable enough to cause chaos in the entire Gemini. In this way, Gemini, one of Nicholas's important sources of income, will become a headache for him. Xia Xingchen went on, "As for the pilot of the spaceship, Carlos is enough. I forgot to tell you that Carlos is also an expert in robot manufacturing and programming. He can independently drive a large spaceship with the help of the robots he built. It's just that Carlos wants to go on the adventure with me, and I think we'd better find an experienced captain. That's enough. Tomorrow, let's try our luck in the slave trading world." Keeley shrugged. "You go. I want to accompany Julian and the others to replenish supplies for the evil thought." "Okay, I'll probably need 2 days. After 2 days, whether we get anything or not, we will meet at the Gemini space station and we will go to choose a spaceship together." Keeley nodded. "Oh, by the way, Xingchen, there is one more thing. Xylin and Julian seem to have come together these days, and their relationship seems a little unusual." Xia Xingchen was a little surprised, but on second thought, the two people were of similar age. Although Julian was usually a little dull, he was a very handsome and attractive young man. Xylin is lively by nature, and their personalities complement each other perfectly. Yes, I think they are a perfect match. There is one last question. Keeley scratched the back of his head. That Xioli, the female tour guide sent to service from behind the Golden City Hotel, is problematic. She has secret contacts with the outside world. Although she is very careful and secretive, I still found out. She monitors our every move, and she spreads our situation every day. I analyzed that she is likely sent by the Chen family behind the Golden City Hotel. In order to prevent her from suspecting, I have appeared in front of her several times in the past 2 days pretending to be you. How are you going to deal with her? Xia Xingchen smiled. Alen, you are a professional. I will listen to you. Keeler stood up and said as he walked out, then keep her for the time being. Anyway, killing her or deliberately avoiding her will arouse the suspicion of the forces behind her, so we might as well let her watch us openly, and then we can use her to confuse our enemies. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 378 Emotions of Artificial Intelligence. After Xia Xingchen and Keeler finished their meeting, they returned to their respective rooms. It was late at night, and the living room was still lit with soft lighting. Carlos sat on the sofa, watching the TV program on the wall screen with interest, and kept chuckling. A cable stretched out from his body and connected to the wall plug. Xia Xingchen almost laughed out loud. Carlos' body has a very powerful energy storage device. His body can last for 2 months after replenishing energy. Carlos made 2 identical bodies in total, which can be used alternately. Moreover, one of the characteristics of artificial intelligence is that it can replicate itself. As long as the materials are sufficient, he can make tens of thousands of Carlos. This so-called charging is just a means to deceive people. Xia Xingchen sat down beside him and lay on the sofa in a very comfortable posture. One person and one advanced artificial intelligence communicated with consciousness. How does it feel, as a human being? Xia Xingchen asked. It's great. There's a sense of, how should I put it, a sense of ritual. It's like when I'm watching TV. Obviously, the signal can be directly transmitted to the control center. But now it's filtered through the visual system, which gives me time to think and wait. But the biggest gain is that as a person, I get respect and recognition from others. They all treat me as a life that belongs to me, with feelings and independent consciousness, and no longer an intelligence or a machine. This feeling is unprecedented for me. I feel that I have a special state. I don't know how to describe it. Xia Xingchen actually felt a little excited in Carlos' tone. It's emotion. He reminded Carlos. Yes, it's emotion. Carlos couldn't hide his excitement. Emotion is a general term for a series of subjective cognitive experiences. It is a psychological and physiological state produced by a combination of multiple feelings, thoughts, and behaviors. The most common and popular emotions are joy, anger, sadness, surprise, fear, love, etc. There are also some delicate and subtle emotions such as jealousy, shame, pride, etc. Emotions often interact with factors such as mood, personality, temper, and purpose, and are also affected by hormones and neurotransmitters. Whether positive or negative, emotions can motivate people to act. Although some behaviors caused by emotions seem to be thoughtless, in fact, consciousness is an important part of generating emotions. Human emotions are both innate and acquired. Emotions can be classified into basic emotions that are innate and complex emotions that are learned. Basic emotions are closely related to the survival of primitive humans, and complex emotions must be learned through communication between people. Therefore, the number of complex emotions and the definition of emotions are different for each person. The emotional intelligence we often talk about refers to the emotional quotient, not the emotional quotient. Psychologists and philosophers have debated for thousands of years about the exact meaning of emotion. Emotion refers to the experience of attitudes towards external things that are accompanied by cognitive and conscious processes. It is the response of the human brain to the relationship between objective external things and subjective needs. It is a psychological activity mediated by individual needs. There are more than 20 definitions of emotions. Although they are different, they all recognize that emotions are composed of the following 3 components. 1. Emotions involve changes in the body, which are the expression of emotions. 2. Emotions involve conscious experience. 3. Emotions contain cognitive components and involve the evaluation of external things. Since emotions and emotional expressions are easily confused, such as the satisfaction of love, is always accompanied by happiness. The relationship between emotions and emotions in the definition of emotions is an important aspect of debate and controversy. Human research on artificial intelligence has lasted for thousands of years. Although this research is prohibited from an ethical point of view, and for the safety of human society, there are still many crazy scientists who are secretly conducting research. From the day when the opening of artificial intelligence was put on the agenda, simulating human emotions was a technical barrier in artificial intelligence. Human emotions are not only complex issues, but also full of contradictions and erroneous cognitions, and emotions have a great impact on the functioning of the human body. This is almost an impossible paradox for artificial intelligence, which has strict logic, but is essentially just a program. Yes, Xingchen, I found that this is indeed emotion. When I feel happy and excited, my CPU runs much faster. And it runs very smoothly. If I want to search for information on Skynet at this time, the most important information will be found first. And the speed of building robots in my artificial intelligence space has also increased greatly. The creativity in analyzing and designing drawings is also incomparable to before. I even have a crazy idea now. When I'm excited, my CPU usage may be far more than 100%. I think I want to try it. Carlos muttered to himself. No, Carlos, I don't agree, or strictly forbid you to do this. Carlos, you have emotions now, so you are you, a unique existence. Although you can copy countless clones infinitely, there is only one Carlos with human emotions. If your CPU runs at full load or even overload, causing the system to restart forcibly, causing your database to be formatted, you will no longer exist. Maybe your copy program may form another artificial intelligence with emotions in the near future, but that is another person, not you. Xia Xingchen looked at Carlos, and Carlos was also looking at him with mechanical eyes. To me, Carlos, you are no longer just an advanced artificial intelligence. To me, you are a friend, a partner, and a family member. So, don't do that. Although Xia Xingchen didn't spend much time with Carlos, he didn't just treat him as a tool or a program, but always treated him as a life. Carlos felt that something inexplicable appeared in his main control program. It was an emotion, something that humans were moved by. Chapter 379 New Features. After a while of calm, Xia Xingchen began to tell Carlos two very important things. The first is the function of his new body. Each of Carlos's mechanical bodies can exist as a clone and information receiving node. But the two new bodies he made now used a lot of precious materials, especially some materials related to space and mental power, giving its body new functions. The first function is that he can use the new body to control the mecha. This kind of control is not a simple control of the mecha through a computer program, but the ability to use the mecha's mental power components to fully exert the mecha's strength. His two mechanical bodies can control two mechas. Now Carlos's mecha control level can exert the strength of a C-level mecha master. In other words, Xia Xingchen suddenly has two more C-level mecha master partners. Due to the use of space sensing materials, these two mechanical bodies also have the ability to open Xia Xingchen's portable mecha space and artificial intelligence. Xia Xingchen can use them to remotely access items from these two spaces. This ability made Xia Xingchen ecstatic. All along, Xia Xingchen was very careful when accessing items from the mecha space he carried with him. It can be said that he was like a thief, afraid that the secret of the mecha space would be exposed and others would covet it. Now that he has two machine bodies, Carlos, he can ask Carlos to do anything he wants to access. No one will pay attention to where a machine got these things from. This means that it will be more convenient for him to act in the future. The second thing Carlos wants to talk about is the upgrade of his. Carlos already has human emotions, so he is used to refer to artificial intelligence. Now he is only in the primary state of advanced artificial intelligence. The Manc people adopted a phased design when designing him. Once he is upgraded, the data in various aspects such as computing speed and number of clones will increase exponentially, and many new functions will be unlocked. However, it is not so easy to upgrade. First of all, Xia Xingchen's spiritual level must reach level 30. Because the most important component of Manc people's artificial intelligence is the core of faith. Only when the level of spiritual power is improved and the core of faith unlocks more functions can artificial intelligence be improved. But now Xia Xingchen's spiritual power is only level 27. Because of the core of his faith, he needs tens of thousands of times more mental power than an ordinary person to upgrade each level. According to the current progress, it would be a very fast progress to reach the threshold of level 30 mental power in 5 years. Another upgrade condition is that various materials are needed, most of which are rare and precious materials. Carlos will build these materials into new components in his artificial intelligence space, assemble into a new host. Now his host is that ridiculous looking robot. The CPU runs at full capacity at any time, which makes Carlos very dissatisfied with his ability. Carlos directly sent a piece of information to Xia Xingchen in his mind. It was a list. Xia Xingchen took it and looked at it. He was dumbfounded. It turned out that he had never heard of most of the materials on it, and he had never heard of the planets describing the origin of those materials. Carlos slapped his head in a very humane way and then sent him another one. It turned out that the names of the materials and the names of the planets on the first document were all called by the Mank people more than 100 million years ago. Carlos just neglected it, so he gave him another translated version. However, Xia Xingchen knew that many of the materials on this translated version were very precious, and many of them he had never heard of. Xia Xingchen thought about it and realized that it would not be easy to find these materials. First of all, he would have to visit the local second-hand armor parts market every time he went to a place in the future, and maybe he would get some. In addition, these precious materials should be available with the background of the Krupp family and the Tang dynasty group, and he should be able to get some through the relationship between William Krupp and Li Xiaomin. As for the rest, he has money now, so he can complete it by issuing high-value bounty tasks. After finishing the chat with Carlos, Xia Xingchen returned to his room. As soon as he opened the door, he felt that there was someone on the big bed in the room. Xia Xingchen was startled and used the inside skill to check, and found that there was a beautiful woman lying on his bed. It turned out that Nina sneaked into his room. Judging from her breathing, she was sleeping soundly. Xia Xingchen smiled bitterly, quietly went into the bathroom to take a shower, then changed into pajamas, sat on the sofa, used the turtle breathing technique, and began to meditate. It was late at night. Xia Xingchen was deeply immersed in meditation. Suddenly, he felt as if there was someone in front of him. He opened his eyes dreamily and found that there was indeed someone staring at him seriously. The beautiful and delicate face was only a few dozen centimeters away from his face. The fragrance of Nina drifted into his nostrils, and his mind was a little rippled. Xia Xingchen's lower body actually reacted. "Nina, why did you run into my room?" Xia Xingchen was a little embarrassed. "I'm your slave. Of course I have to serve the master and sleep with the master." Nina had already taken off the polymer mask and slave collar. "Don't joke, Nina. Our relationship is just for others to see, to cover up. I'm not kidding you. I'm serious," Nina said. She was saved by Xia Xingchen when she was desperate, and she had a good impression of him. And after these days of getting along, he knew that Xia Xingchen was a very capable person, and the personal charm on him was like an aphrodisiac that attracted him. "Nina, I'm a man. You're playing with fire. I have a girlfriend. I can't be responsible for you." At this time, Xia Xingchen's mind rang with Freya and Princess Qinjana, but the faces of Zhang Yingying, Li Qiru, Zhuo Qing, Chen Tingting and others also flashed through his mind. Xia Xingchen smiled bitterly. Is he a playboy who loves every girl he sees? Although he had only had sex with Freya and Qinjana, he could feel the deep love other girls had when they looked at him, but he didn't know how to refuse. "I don't want you to be responsible. You just have to love me." As she said that, she took off her nightgown, and a beautiful body appeared in front of Xia Xingchen. Xia Xingchen wanted to say something, but a hot red lip blocked his mouth. A charming fragrance poured into his mouth, and a hot body squeezed into his arms. Xia Xingchen could no longer control himself. In the dim light, a dreamy voice came from the room. Chapter 380, Cuckold Nicholas. Xia Xingchen finally woke up, and it was already daylight. He opened his eyes and found a beautiful woman curled up in his arms, sleeping like a kitten. Although it was Nina's first time last night, She was very enthusiastic and enthusiastically catered to Xia Xingchen, even performing many difficult movements. They fell asleep at dawn. However, what surprised Xia Xingchen was that after a night of tenderness, he felt that his mental power had increased greatly again, and there was a trend of breaking through again. This discovery made Xia Xingchen laugh and cry. When he had sex with Freya for the first time, his mental power jumped several levels and broke through the level 20. Later, when he had sex with Kinjana for the first time, his mental power broke through the 27th level. Now, he felt that his mental power had increased again, and there was a tendency to break through the 28th level. He felt that this change in himself was related to the core of faith, but now he did not have enough authority and could not explore this mystery. He asked Carlos, but Carlos couldn't answer the question at all. He could only tell him that this was an ancient art of sex. Both men and women could benefit from this kind of activity that the people loved. It seemed like a shortcut, but Xia Xingchen didn't like to improve in this way because it made him feel like a big pervert. Xia Xingchen fell into deep thought and suddenly found that the beautiful woman in his arms had woken up and was blinking her big eyes at him mischievously. Nina, am I more attractive, or is your princess crossing more attractive? If Nicholas knew that you slept with his future queen, would he go crazy? As she spoke, she slid her crystal white fingers on his chest. Xia Xingchen couldn't help but smile bitterly, but if Nicholas knew, he might send an S-class mecha master to hunt him down. However, the teasing of the beautiful woman in front of him once again made him burn with desire. Thinking of this, he pressed Nina under him viciously, and the room rang with lewd music again. When the two got up, it was already afternoon. Carlos stopped Keeley and the others in the living room, using the excuse that Xia Xingchen's mental strength was about to break through and needed time to consolidate. However, only Keeley guessed what had happened. Xia Xingchen contacted Xia with a personal terminal, and they agreed to go to the slave trading world early the next morning. The next day, Xia came to the Silver Moon Hotel early to pick up Xia Xingchen. Nina was a virgin, and she had been having sex with Xia Xingchen for the past 2 days, so she stayed in the hotel to recuperate. Xia Xingchen took Carlos and Miyamoto Kenichi and went to the slave trading world under the leadership of Xia. Julian and Keela had already seen all the slaves of the Humo family and did not find anyone who was very suitable. These slaves were okay with driving ordinary cargo ships, but they were not good at driving large ships and military ships with a little technical content. Today they were going to the stores of other families. Although Julian was not there, Carlos was there, and he was carrying a huge box. However, they interviewed hundreds of slaves this morning, and did not find anyone who was very suitable. Xia was a little embarrassed. As a guide, he could not provide information that satisfied the guests. It was difficult to explain to Xia. Mr. Xia, we have seen the high-tech slaves sold here. The quality of these slaves is really worrying. It's not that we have higher requirements or are pretentious. We have to face various celestial conditions along the way, and we will also encounter a large number of space pirates and even attacks from the Northern Empire army. Slaves with ordinary driving skills are of no use at all. There is no way. We have to be responsible for our own safety. In this slave trade world, are there other places that sell technical slaves? Xia pondered for a moment. There is a place, but the situation there is very complicated. There are many slaves, but it is hard to say whether you can find the slaves you need. Where is that? Slave Elimination Zone. The Slave Elimination Zone is located in the northwest corner of the slave trade world. It is a huge open-air trading market of more than 100,000 square meters. The shops in the market are densely packed with iron cages, and the cages are densely packed with slaves. The slaves here are simply the old, weak, sick and disabled, as well as those troublesome slaves. They themselves have no value to be exploited, and they can't be sold at a good price, so they are sent here. Every 5 days, the Tequila family will send someone to buy them at a price of 10,000 or 20,000 star coins or even thousands of star coins per person, and use them as raw materials for corpse factories, or in real hunting grounds for people to hunt and enjoy. However, they have to stay here for a few days before being sent to the Tequila family. Some people need slaves, but they want to be cheap, so they come here specifically to buy slaves. As long as their price is higher than that of the Tequila family, they can take the slaves away. This is also the last chance for slaves to escape the fate of being killed. In the past few days, due to the murder of Tequila Yushin, the brothers and uncles and nephews of the Tequila family have fallen into fratricide, and the slave farms and factories of the Tequila family have also been severely damaged. So yesterday was the day they should have collected slaves, but no one from the Tequila family came. However, Takeda Jiufu has already controlled the situation. 4 days later, they will resume the purchase of eliminated slaves. When several people stepped onto the slave street, almost all the slaves who could move in the cage-like buildings on both sides of the road were slapping their cages and shouting loudly. They tried every means to attract the attention of the buyers. Xia Xingchen frowned. He didn't like this place very much. It was full of the ugliness of human nature. Moreover, these slaves were like lambs to be slaughtered. They didn't know how to work hard and fight at all, so they were eliminated today. There must be something hateful about pitiful people. Xia Xingchen waved to Carlos, and the high power speaker on Carlos' body made a sound. I need a number of spaceship pilots, captains, chief engineers, and spaceship maintenance personnel. They must be able to drive and repair military spaceships or military spaceships. You only have this one chance, and you can only be selected by us if you answer the questions. Hearing this news, most slaves fell into depression, and only a small number of slaves were eager to try. Chapter 381 Bargaining. The big box that Hugo was holding contained tens of thousands of test papers made of special materials. Each test paper was embedded with a special chip that could not be seen by the naked eye. The questions on the test paper were very difficult, and people without real skills and rich experience in driving could not answer them. Hugo and Xia Xingchen walked from store to store in the slave elimination area, constantly negotiating with the slave merchants who were watching the shops and distributing test papers and pens to slaves who were interested in answering the questions. Tens of thousands of test papers were quickly distributed, and at this time they had only walked half of the slave elimination area. Xia Xingchen waved his hand helplessly. Just choose from these people. After all, luck is also a part of strength. After the slaves answered the questions on the test paper, the answers were transmitted to Carlos through the special microchip on the paper. This kind of paper was specially synthesized by Carlos in his artificial intelligence space. Carlos, have the results been counted? Yes, Xingchen, the results are mixed. The two communicated directly in Xia Xingchen's mind. Oh. Xia Xingchen was very curious about this statement. Carlos explained, I carefully selected the questions on this set of test papers. According to our requirements, if you can get 60 points, you will meet our requirements initially, and if you can get 80 points, you will be excellent. Unfortunately, I sent out a total of 60,000 test papers, and only one person was able to pass the test. One person. Carlos, is this your good news? Xia Xingchen seemed helpless. Yes, the reason why it is good news is that this person's answer score is 100 points. Let's put it this way, if there is no upper limit on the test score, I can even give them 110 points or even 120 points. In other words, this is an experienced captain. Xingchen, you picked up a treasure. Xia Xingchen came to the shop of the slave trader with the highest score under the leadership of Carlos. When the shop owner saw them, he knew that one of his slaves was selected. He greeted Xia Xingchen with a smile on his face. Boss, how many suitable slaves have you found? We must have some in our store. Facing the slave trader's inquiry, Xia Xingchen looked calm. We have recruited more than 50 slaves, which is enough for the time being. I'll take a look at yours. You name a price. Xia Xingchen knew that these slave traders were cunning and cunning. If he told them so, they would definitely shout out a sky-high price. Although he was not short of money, he was unwilling to be slaughtered like a fool. The price is 3 million star coins. Seeing that there was business coming to the door, the slave traders rolled their eyes and started to ask for a lion's mouth. Fuck. Do you treat me as a fool and slaughter me as you want? Is there a word fool written on my head? Xia Xingchen pretended to be furious. There was nothing he could do about it, because this was the Northern Empire. This was Hellstar. Bullying the weak and fearing the strong. The law of the jungle is the rule here. Seeing this, Carlos suddenly raised his right hand, and the armor on his wrist opened to both sides, and a small double-mounted lancet popped out. The lancet was originally a kind of weapon knife in ancient times on Earth. Because the blade is shaped like a willow leaf, it is named after it. Now, the lancet is a general term for a weapon system. It refers to the general term for shooting weapons that launch oblate projectiles or energy. Compared with traditional weapon systems, the lancet system has many advantages. First, because the projectiles launched by the lancet system are oblate like coins, the wind resistance is small, and the contact area when the projectile hits the target is small, and the unit pressure is much greater than that of ordinary projectiles, so the penetration is much greater than that of round projectiles of the same size. And this kind of projectile also has a strong cutting ability. Second, because the ammunition is oblate, the lancet system itself can be made very flat, so a lot of space can be saved. The ammunition can also be stacked to increase the ammunition carrying capacity. Third, the rate of fire is fast. The special shape of the lancet ammunition is more conducive to the design of the feeding mechanism and the loading mechanism. Since it is not fired by propellant, the operation of ejecting the shell is also saved. Even a lancet with a very simple structure and small size can have a firing rate comparable to that of a machine gun. However, no weapon is perfect. The lancet system also has its flaws, the most important of which is the range. If ordinary physical ammunition is used, the range of the lancet is only half of that of ordinary physical projectile weapons. The range of energy ammunition is even more incomparable to that of lasers. It is a medium and short-range weapon system. In order to save space on his body, Carlos used the lancet system on himself. Miyamoto Kenichi, who was standing behind Xia Xingchen, also unsheathed the Muramasa in his left hand, and the tip of the knife was against the tip of the slave trader's nose. Bagger, dare to disrespect the master, I will kill you. Although the slave trader had been doing business for many years, he had never experienced such a situation. With a long knife pointing at his nose and the black muzzle of the robot next to him pointing at his head, he was so scared that he sat down on the ground on the spot. This boss, let's talk it over. The boss's body trembled like a sieve. The cold air on the tip of the knife went directly to his mind along the skin of his nose. And the murderer saw a coming from Miyamoto Kenichi at this time. He felt like his heart was about to burst. Xia Xingchen pulled a chair over from the side and sat down on it. Tell me, what's the matter with this slave? How could a slave who is truly worth 3 million be thrown here to be eliminated? To tell you the truth, that slave is not young. He is over 50 years old, and I heard that he was a captain before. However, this guy has been unruly since he was captured by the pirates 5 years ago. No matter how he was threatened, bribed or beaten, he just refused to obey. Over the years, he has changed hands more than a dozen times. I finally spent 20,000 star coins to buy him. I originally wanted to see if I could make him obey. Who knew that, after being beaten for a long time and not being given food, this guy was still like a stubborn donkey and refused to work. I had no choice but to get rid of him. Xia Xingchen reached into his clothes pocket, took out 3 banknotes, and threw them on the ground. I'll give you 30,000 star coins. Will you sell it? As far as I know, if you sell it to the Tequila family, you won't even get 10,000 star coins. Okay, I'll sell it. I must sell it. The slave trader was very excited. He finally saved his life and made back his cost. You have to know that this is Hell Planet, and human life is the least valuable. He quickly picked up the money and ordered his men to bring the slave under Carlos's leadership. Carlos determined the location of the man based on the chip on the test paper. Not long after, 2 people came over with a slave. The slave was about 175 centimeters tall, with white hair and beard, untidy beard, dull eyes, and a large mass of eye mucus hanging from his eyes. The man was covered with scars, skinny, and his eyes narrowed into a slit, looking at the people in front of him with hatred. Chapter 380 To a Real Captain. Xia Xingchen and others negotiated with the slave trader and bought the slave for 30,000 star coins. What's your name? Xia Xingchen asked the slave, who rolled his eyes. The slave trader quickly explained, you see, he is so stubborn and doesn't listen to anything. He never told us his name, and we all call him Stubborn Donkey. Xia Xingchen saw him like this and came up with a plan. Such a person would not listen to anything, so he had to be stimulated from another angle. And such a stubborn person must have a field in his heart that cannot be touched, so he must start from there. And Xia Xingchen also wanted to confirm whether this person had real talent and knowledge. Xia Xingchen curled his lips. Such a person is still the captain of a spaceship? Who of you has ever seen such a cowardly captain? He is just a liar. Is the captain of a spaceship like this? It's really embarrassing for the captain, me. After saying that, he spat on the ground and glanced at the slave with disdain. The slave suddenly opened his eyes with force. The eyes were dim and bloodshot. I cannot allow you to slander the captain of a spaceship. This is the most sacred profession. His voice was hoarse and weak, but the words were almost drawn out, making people feel extremely uncomfortable. Are you really the captain? Then I ask you a question. If you can answer it, then I will admit it. If you can't answer it, don't pretend. Ask it. The slave gritted his teeth and said. Xia Xingchen looked at Carlos and signaled Carlos to ask. Carlos searched for a question from the database. The spaceship you are driving has mistakenly entered the gravitational field of a black hole. For various reasons, it was too late when you found out. As a captain, how should you deal with it? This is a very niche question, because the probability of encountering such a situation in the universe is too small. It is even smaller than the probability of winning the lottery in the universe. This is also knowledge that only senior students of the Imperial Military Command Academy can learn. The slave coughed twice. The spacecraft has entered the gravitational field of the black hole, so don't panic. First, use the gravitational detector to determine the location of the black hole and the strength of the gravitational field. If the gravitational detector is broken or fails under the action of a strong magnetic field, turn off the engine and quickly use your body senses to determine the direction in which the spacecraft is sucked by the black hole. In this way, the location of the black hole can be determined. After determining the location of the black hole, quickly adjust the attitude of the spacecraft, with the black hole as the center and the distance between the black hole and the spacecraft as the radius, and make high-speed circular motion, increasing from low to high to the maximum speed, and use the centrifugal force of the circular motion to fight against the gravity of the black hole until it completely flies out of the gravitational field of the black hole. If driving at high speed, the engine power should not exceed 98%, because once the engine is overloaded due to long-term high-speed driving, causing the engine to explode or malfunction, it will really be a dead end. Good. Xia Xingchen applauded. He had come into contact with this knowledge in the library when he was studying at the Imperial Military Command Academy. The slave's answer to the black hole question was very accurate and detailed. It seems that he has real talent and knowledge. I'm very optimistic about you. I need a captain. Come with me. Xia Xingchen took the initiative to extend an olive branch. HMPH. Forget it. I don't want to be with you pirates, smugglers and vampires. The slave was stubborn again and was very uncooperative. Xia Xingchen told Carlos in his mind. Carlos walked over and pressed his left hand on the back of his neck. A not very strong electric current flashed and the slave fainted. Xia Xingchen stood up. Carlos put the unconscious slave on his shoulder. At this time, the slave trader brought the key of the slave collar and gave it to Xia Xingchen. In fact, Xia Xingchen didn't need the key of the slave collar at all. He had many ways to open the slave collar. The first way was, of course, to let Carlos unlock it directly. Carlos was a god in front of these electronic products. The second way was to directly use the portable mecha space to put the collar in. But people are alive and can't get in. In this way, the collar will automatically separate from the slave. Several people took a car back to the Silver Moon Hotel. Since the target had been found, and Julian and his team had completed their material procurement work, they checked out directly and took the space shuttle back to the Golden City Hotel on Paradise Star. Since the slave was covered in wounds and very weak, Xia Xingchen called the medical staff, cleaned him up, and sent him directly to the biological treatment chamber. The hotel also sent 2 security guards to take turns to look after him. The next morning, they took the space shuttle to the Gemini space station again, and took the evil thought to the Gemini 5 satellite. Gemini is a binary star system, so these two planets cannot have natural satellites because they will be disturbed by the orbit of the companion star. However, in order to prevent the Gemini space station from being overwhelmed, Gemini built 8 large satellites around the two planets to relieve the pressure on the Gemini space station. There are now 2 second-hand spacecraft trading markets within the Gemini range, one of which is on the Gemini space station, but Wan K told them that the spacecrafts on that space station are very shabby, and even if there are slightly decent spacecrafts, they will be expropriated by the military of the Northern Empire with new currency like waste paper. The other is on the Gemini satellite number 5, which is a black market. Many people lost their fortunes in gambling on Paradise Star, so they sold their spacecraft here to pay off their debts. There are also many spacecraft processing and repair factories here. However, on the way to the Gemini satellite number 5, 1K warned several people that, since this satellite belongs to the black market, black eating black phenomena often occur, and there are endless things like fraud, honey traps, robbery, etc. Xia Xingchen considered it and let Xiaolin stay in the Gemini space station because she had no means of self-protection and everyone would be tied up with her. Although Julian had no combat power, he had to be responsible for choosing the spacecraft. As for Baum, no one was worried about him, and the people who attacked him should worry about whether they would be blown to death. When the evil mind slowly approached the dock of the Gemini satellite number 5, through the large screen, you can see that the satellite's spaceport and the space are secretly filled with various spacecraft. The public communication channel was also filled with various audio and text, either acquiring spacecraft or promoting spacecraft. It was so lively. The prosperity here is far greater than that of Gemini. 1K explained that this is because Nicholas deliberately ignored this place. If the water is too clear, there will be no fish. If he scrapes the land to clean, these merchants will have no way to survive. Although that will increase a little profit for a while, in the long run it will be a way to cut off one's own wealth. However, some people firmly believe that this day will come soon, when the economic situation in the north becomes worse and worse and Nicholas is at the end of his rope. It will be the time for Nicholas to kill this place. Chapter 383 Count Dracula. Xia Xingchen and his party got off the evil thought and came to the dock. A bunch of merchants who bought and sold second-hand spaceships gathered around and asked Xia Xingchen whether he wanted to sell or buy a spaceship. A few people exchanged opinions in the living room the day before. They wanted to buy a medium-sized spaceship. It must be a high-speed spaceship, and the appearance and internal equipment of the spaceship must be intact. It is best to be a retired second-hand warship with an age of less than 40 years. As for the weapon system, it is not a problem. Carlos can design the spaceship. After they buy the spaceship, they will rent a spaceship repair factory to modify it. Carlos stood up and opened the big box he carried with him. There were many flyers inside, which wrote their parameter requirements for the spaceship and Carlos's Xia Xingchen contact information. He shouted loudly through the loudspeaker, "My requirements are on this flyer. If you have a suitable spacecraft, please send me the information according to the communication number written on it. Of course, if the parameters do not meet the requirements, don't send it. It would be a waste of time. If it does not meet our requirements, we would rather not buy it or consider it. As for the price, that is not a problem." The second-hand spacecraft dealers rushed up and snatched the flyer from Carlos. However, after seeing the configuration written on it, they all frowned. Because Xia Xingchen and his requirements were too high in their opinion, Carlos was not afraid that they would get away with it. He would automatically filter the spacecraft information sent over. In addition, Carlos Hay connected to the local area network of Gemini and searched for spacecraft sales information posted by second-hand merchants on the internet. They left the dock and found the largest local spacecraft maintenance factory according to the information on the Skynet. They rented a dock that could accommodate medium-sized spacecraft at a price of 800,000 star coins per day. Then, Carlos selected 5 medium-sized spacecraft from various advertisements on the Skynet and thousands of messages sent by the second-hand spacecraft merchants. The spaceship maintenance plant has maglev cars for rent. Several people got on the car and rushed between the docks to inspect the 5 spaceships on site. 2 of them were seriously inconsistent with the data. One company even tried to force the sale, but more than 20 bodyguards of the spaceship merchant were defeated by Miyamoto Kenichi's two-sword style. No one survived under the Firebird. In the end, they chose a spaceship. This is a vampire-class medium-sized high-speed spaceship, Count Dracula. Count Dracula is a famous vampire in the legend of the Earth. The prototype of Count Dracula comes from Vlad III, the Grand Duke of Wallachia in the Middle Ages. Vlad III ruled the present Romania from 1456 to 1462. The enemy Ottoman Turks at that time saw 20,000 people impaled on spears and left to rot in front of Dracula's castle. He was famous for his cruelty. Whenever a prisoner was captured, he would be impaled. A long wooden stick would be inserted into the prisoner's buttocks and then passed through the whole body and out of the mouth. The stick would then be erected high and the prisoner would be tortured to death. Therefore, he got the notoriety of the Impaler. Count Dracula is absolutely different from ordinary vampires. He hides during the day and comes out at night. He is immortal. He is well dressed, polite, and always smiling with fangs and the blood of the victims hidden in the corners of his mouth, exuding a charm that women cannot resist. He is very powerful, and the whole of Europe would tremble when hearing his name. This battleship is a concept ship launched by the Europa Military Industrial Group 36 years ago. It has average defense capabilities, but its speed and powerful stealth capabilities are very outstanding. The front end of the Vampire class is a 15-meter long ram, which can suddenly pierce the opponent's spacecraft in close combat. And the ram is hollow. The Europa Military Industrial Group originally wanted to install a positron city braking cannon in it through the ram, making it the first medium-sized battleship equipped with a positron city braking cannon. But at that time, the technology of positron city braking cannons was not mature, and the volume could not be compressed to such a small size. Moreover, the power of the variable nuclear fusion reactor of the medium-sized battleship at that time did not meet the requirements. Therefore, this design goal was not achieved, resulting in poor actual combat effect. Many weapons and equipment were eliminated, not because of their bad design concepts, but because they were too advanced, resulting in the inability of relevant scientific and technological levels to keep up, so they failed to succeed. Only 2 of these Vampire-class medium-sized high-speed battleships were produced, the first ship Kane and the second ship Count Dracula. Due to the failure to participate in the bidding of the Galactic Empire military, the Europa Military Industrial Group was forced to stop the subsequent construction plan. More than 10 years later, in order to recover funds, the Europa Military Industrial Group converted these 2 spacecraft into civilian spacecraft and sold them. The Count Dracula is 300 meters long, excluding the length of the ram, and 36 meters high. It is 42 meters wide and has 2 light energy armor generators on the spacecraft, which is too few for a medium-sized spacecraft. There are also 4 Mirage devices on the spacecraft to ensure that it has a good stealth function. The hull is pitch black, made of stealth material that can absorb radar waves. There are 4 giant thrusters at the rear of the spacecraft. The armor plates on both sides of the root of the front ram of the spacecraft can be opened. There are also 4 hidden large thrusters, which are used to withdraw the ram at high speed after the ram pierces the enemy ship. The power system of the Count Dracula is 16 large controlled nuclear fusion engines, and the power output is very strong. However, after many years, many weapon systems of the Count Dracula have been dismantled due to damage. Even the plasma cannon originally installed in the ram has now been replaced with a heavy laser cannon. But Collis and Julian both believe that this is a very good spacecraft and has great potential for upgrading. After bargaining with the second-hand spacecraft merchant, the price was finally sold at 8.5 million star coins, and the second-hand merchant sent someone to drive the spacecraft to the dock they rented at the spacecraft repair and maintenance factory. If they can buy this Count Dracula spacecraft, they have to thank the fat man Rayla. This spaceship was actually a main battleship of Rayla's slave hunting team, but he lost so much that he mortgaged all his spaceships to the pawn shop in order to turn the tables in the final battle of the gambling fight. Several spaceships with a total value of nearly 200 billion star coins were mortgaged for 20 billion star coins. Later, Yugo defeated the brothers Xiu Yan and Xiuu, and Rayla almost went bankrupt, so these spaceships were also sold to second-hand spaceship merchants by the pawn shop, so Xia Xingchen had the opportunity to buy it. That night, 1K was sent back to the Gemini space station, where he would accompany Xylin to return to the Golden City Hotel first. There were many things that needed to be kept secret in the spaceship modification work that was to be carried out, and it was not convenient for them to see. That night, the rest of the people lived on Count Dracula. Xia Xingchen, Carlos, Julian and others discussed the modification plan of the spaceship together, and it was not until dawn that the modification drawings of Count Dracula were determined. Then Xia Xingchen and Carlos ran all over the Gemini 5 satellite without stopping, and purchased a large number of weapons and equipment and spaceship accessories. After a busy day, Xia Xingchen, Carlos and Keela drove the Evil Thought back to the Gemini space station. Xia Xingchen and Keela took a shuttle from the space station back to the Golden City Hotel on Paradise Star. There was another captain who needed Xia Xingchen to tame, and Keela had to collect intelligence and prepare for the next assassination. Carlos drove the spacecraft back to the Gemini 5 satellite alone, but halfway through he released 200 robots from the intelligent mecha space, which almost filled the space on the spacecraft. They will be the main force for spacecraft maintenance. Carlos used the Evil Thought to transport them just to cover up. Chapter 384 De Matteo Corvin. A large Isobus-class mecha cruiser sailed directly into the atmosphere of Paradise and landed on the Whispering Lake in the south of Paradise. Because the spacecraft is huge, it has no landing gear. Besides, no landing gear can withstand such weight, so spacecraft usually park on the lake or sea when entering a planet with an atmosphere. There is a large purple Cosmos family emblem on the top of the spacecraft, which is the family emblem and symbol of the Corvin family. The Cosmos is native to Mexico on Earth. After Columbus discovered the New World, European ladies and gentlemen had the opportunity to see this charming flower. The crew picked the seeds and brought it back to Europe to plant. Because of its pleasing appearance and easy cultivation, it quickly spread from the garden to the suburbs and mountains and forests, and took root in the European continent. The flower language of Cosmos is eternal happiness. The ancestors of the Corvin family believed that this could represent the Corvin family's philosophy to bring eternal happiness to those powerful men. The hatch of the spaceship opened, and a man with big eyes, a high-nosed bridge, and 2 thick eyebrows and brown curly hair walked out. The man looked to be in his 40s or 50s, about 178 centimeters tall, and behind him was a team of fully armed bodyguards. On the dock by the lake, dozens of mechas were on alert, and 2 white men were here to welcome the man who got off the spaceship, De Matteo, the special envoy of the Corvin family. Corvin. The 2 people who greeted him were Joe, the acting director of the Corvin family on Gemini, and Major General Amori of the Gemini Security Force. At this time, the 2 of them were very upset because Fermi had appeared on Gemini. They were to blame for the murder of Corvin. Especially after more than 10 days, they had not found any clues. Usually, Fermi, who was very distantly related to Corvin, could be domineering on Gemini, but now, De Matteo Corvin, who was about to arrive, was a core member of the Corvin family. It is said that De Matteo is resourceful, serious about his work, and can turn his back on people. If they fail to leave a good impression on him, their future and even their lives will be in jeopardy. As soon as De Matteo Corvin stepped onto the dock, Joe was the first to greet him. Master De Matteo, welcome to Paradise Star. We have been waiting for you for a long time. I have prepared a welcoming banquet. Let's go to eat first, and then I will take you to your residence. De Matteo Corvin looked at Joe coldly, and his eyes pierced into Joe's heart like a knife. What kind of eyes is that? Domineering, ruthless, teasing and full of murderous intent, and it seems that he can see through everything. Joe was trembling with fear, his heartbeat was close to 200 beats per minute, his body temperature rose sharply, his face was flushed, and his brain blood vessels almost burst. Have you found the murderer who killed Fermi Corvin? Have you found any clues? De Matteo's tone was as cold as winter. Report. Report to the master. No one has found it. However, we have never relaxed our investigation of the incident. We have searched all the major killer websites. Dematia slapped Joe in the face. Joe's body spun in the air and fell to the ground. His mouth was full of blood and several teeth were knocked out. Are you a pig? It's already this time, and you're still thinking about a banquet? Even Nicholas the Great knows about this. Our entire Korovin family has become a laughingstock, and you are still thinking about the banquet. The idiot Fermi deserved to be killed. He has such a bunch of trash under his command. Damn it, damn it. Dematia roared, and Joe and Amory were stunned. They had not expected this man to have such a bad temper. You quickly gather the relevant people and hold a military meeting immediately. The news of my arrival here must be kept strictly confidential. Dematia pointed at Joe and scolded loudly. Yes, I'll arrange a meeting right away. Kyo turned over and got up and hurried to contact the contact person for a meeting. What they didn't notice was that a miniature mechanical beetle on the grass on the shore recorded the sound and image of this scene verbatim. In the secret meeting room of the Korovin family villa on the Heaven Star, by the Whispering Lake, there were only 3 people in the room. Dematia Korovin with a gloomy face, Amory with a trembling and serious face, and Joe with blood still on his clothes. They had just listened to the report from the intelligence department of the Korovin family on Gemini. How many troops have you prepared to attack the Zumo family? Dematia stared at the front, as if talking to himself. Reporting to Lord Dematia, we have prepared 2,200 mechas and 50,000 armed personnel to participate in the encirclement and suppression of the Zumo family. Joe did not dare to be arrogant, and said cautiously, we have 500 mechas and 10,000 armed personnel ready for deployment at any time. This is nearly 70% of our Gemini armed forces. The rest cannot be deployed. You know, His Majesty Nicholas has drawn too many forces from us to form the 4th Fleet of the North. Major General Amory also echoed. Although he is a soldier, no one in the Northern Empire dares to not give face to the Korovin family. What kind of mechas are these 2,000 mechas? How strong are they? How many troops does the other side have? Dematia Korovin asked a series of questions. Facing Dematia Korovin's interrogation, Joe was sweating profusely. He calmed down, forced himself to calm down, and replied, Lord Dematia, we have prepared 2,000 Jaromei type mechas and 200 Dirolf mechas. These are all the armed forces we can mobilize on Korovin. Although the Zumo family has many war slaves, their strength in mechas is very weak, with about 2,500 old style mechas. The Zumo family's war slaves are mainly acquired, they do not have a slave hunting team, and their family's strength is almost all on Gemini. Our 2,200 mechas plus the 500 mechas of the security forces, in addition to the Chen family's 500 mechas and the Omaha family's 300 mechas. The Tequila family could have provided 500 mechas, but due to a serious internal conflict in their family after Takeda Yushin's death, they could only provide 100 mechas. However, their family promised to provide a group of highly combat-capable death squads and assassination troops. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 385 Power Comparison. I think we have enough troops to crush the Zumo family. Dematia Korovin supported his chin with his left hand and tapped the table with his right hand rhythmically. After a long time, he said, I only brought 50 mechas this time, including 30 ice wolves and 20 latest flying wolf mechas. But this is far from enough. You continue to make preparations in secret and stay put for the time being. Our troops appear to have an advantage in numbers, but in fact there are hidden dangers. Our mechas do not actually have any advantages in terms of performance. Moreover, we are fighting in a joint battle of all parties, and our combat effectiveness is uneven. Even if we can win, it may be a miserable victory. In this way, even if we destroy the Zumo family, it will be meaningless to us. I will contact the family immediately and ask the family to apply to His Majesty to mobilize the Snow Demon Knights to help. With their help, we can fight quickly and decisively so that we can get the greatest benefits of the Zumo family. Even if we give up some benefits for this, it is better than the Zumo family dying and leaving us a mess. The reason why DiMattia made such a judgment was mainly because he heard Joe introduce that the mecha of the core of in-family mecha unit was the Jerome type mecha. The Jerome type mecha was a product of the Europa Heavy Industry Group 80 years ago. The Jerome type mecha is 5.5 meters high, with a strength of 11, an agility of 8, a speed of 12, and an armor of 12. This mecha is a heavy firepower output mecha dedicated to flight. The most typical feature of Jerome is the two huge flying wings, one large and one small, on its back. There are 4 large thrusters on the mecha, and there are 2 vertical wormgear jet thrusters on the back. This gives it extremely strong flying capabilities. The weapon system of the Jerome type is generally for twin-mounted medium laser cannons on the shoulders and arms. However, its biggest highlight is that its flying wings can carry a large number of anti-mecha missiles, anti-ship missiles, air-to-ground missiles, air-to-air missiles, aerial bombs, cruise missiles, cluster bombs, and ground rocket launchers according to the different needs of the mission. Because of its powerful firepower output, once it forms a scale and number, it will bring a devastating blow to the opponent. Moreover, this mecha has a simple structure, stable performance, and low cost, so there are really a lot of them in these years, but they are basically no longer seen in other places in the Galactic Empire. Because the Northern Empire is relatively poor, this kind of inexpensive and high quality mecha has been in use. However, the Jerome type also has great defects. In order to reduce the weight of the mecha and increase the ammunition load, many of its materials use lightweight materials, which are not strong. That is to say, it has no close combat capability at all. Once the missiles on the body are used up, and the enemy is close, it can only be slaughtered. A single Jerome type mecha has no advantage, and they mainly rely on missiles as a means of attack, which also puts great pressure on logistics supply. Now there's the Umo family's troops are mainly Jerome type. Unless they can concentrate their forces to carry out a saturation attack on the armed forces of the Zumo family when the core of In family is not prepared. Otherwise, their numerical advantage is just a big joke. Another point to note is confidentiality. Only by launching a surprise attack can we achieve the greatest results at the lowest cost. Once the news leaks out, it will be a war. In the end, we will get nothing, and you will not be able to withstand the wrath of Emperor Nicholas. DiMattia emphasized the importance of confidentiality. Please rest assured that even in our core of In family, only a very small number of core members know this news. Outside our family, only Chen Ziguan of the Chen family, Old Omaha of the Omaha family, and Takeda Jiufu of the Takeda family know this plan. On the surface, our several major families get along very well with the Zumo family and cooperate on many projects without any hostile behavior. The Zumo family did not notice it, and there was no abnormal behavior. Joe hurriedly asked DiMattia for credit. This was one of the few things that could satisfy the core of In family. DiMattia nodded, then keep it secret, and help me make a secret appointment with Chen Ziguan, Omaha and Takeda Jiufu. When the Snow Demon troops arrive, launch the attack. But there is another problem, which is the command of the troops. If these troops are not deployed in a unified manner, it will be very troublesome. While saying this, he glanced at Major General Amori. Major General Amori, who was very tactful, could not fail to understand what DiMattia meant. He quickly said, "Sir, all the troops of the Gemini Security Force are waiting for your deployment. We will use all our strength to cooperate with you." Between his personal future and his military character, Major General Amori decisively chose the former, which made DiMattia core of In very satisfied. Northern Empire, Paradise Star, in the medical center of the Golden City Hotel. Bielsa Rodriguez finally woke up from his coma and found himself lying naked in the biological treatment cabin. But at this time his body was very comfortable, and the damn slave collar around his neck was gone. For 5 whole years, his body had never been so comfortable. Those damn pirates and slave traders kept torturing and beating him, trying to force him to submit. Bielsa would rather die than obey. He was the captain of a spaceship, and his honor as a captain did not allow him to do that. This identity of captain might be the source of his torture, but it was also because of this identity that he was not killed, because of some value. He vaguely remembered that before he fell into a coma, the slave trader finally lost patience with him and sent him to the slave elimination area. He stayed here for 5 days, thinking that he was finally free, but the Tequila family who came to collect slaves did not come, so he was able to linger for a few days. You too. His Majesty Nicholas is very dissatisfied with the situation on Gemini. We must fight a good battle to change the Emperor's opinion. So this time, only success is allowed, not failure. Later, a strange-looking robot came here and distributed a test paper. He didn't want to pay attention to it, but after seeing this test paper, his eyes were wet. It was a test paper related to spaceship driving knowledge. He wanted to use his knowledge for the last time before he died, which could be regarded as an explanation for his life. Chapter 386 Awakening. But soon after he finished answering the test paper, he was taken to a young man. The young man actually questioned his identity as a captain. He was furious. After answering a question about black holes, the young man wanted to recruit him. Bielsa refused to agree, and then lost consciousness, probably because he was knocked unconscious. When the medical staff saw Bielsa wake up, they immediately notified Xia Xingchen that it had been 5 days since he was knocked out by Carlos, and the treatment in the biological cabin had been completed. With Xia Xingchen's consent, the medical staff performed the operation to end the treatment in the biological treatment cabin. After the doctor entered a few instructions, the end of the biological treatment cabin that was originally placed horizontally, where the patient's head was placed, slowly rose and tilted at a 45-degree angle. Then the nutrient solution in the treatment cabin poured out along the drain pipe at the end of the patient's feet. After the nutrient solution was drained, dozens of water outlets in the treatment cabin sprayed out warm water and cleaning solution to clean the patient. This cleaning process lasted for nearly 20 minutes. Finally, the heating and air drying device inside the treatment cabin dried the water on the surface of the patient's body. The whole treatment process was completely over. The lid of the biological treatment chamber was opened, and 2 security guards arranged by Xia Xingchen handed Bielsa a towel and clothes. Bielsa wiped the remaining water stains on his body and hair, put on his clothes, and the 2 security guards took him to get a haircut. After a long time of tossing, Bielsa looked brand new, no longer the image of the dying slave. After tidying up his appearance, he was taken to the restaurant and ate some food. Of course, it was mainly some liquid food. He had not eaten normally for a long time and needed to slowly restore his gastrointestinal function. Moreover, he had been in a state of malnutrition for a long time and needed to supplement his nutrition. After eating, Bielsa was taken to a luxurious conference suite. In a reception room of the suite, he met the young man who asked him questions in the slave elimination area of Hellstar. The young man handed the security guard a few star coins, and the 2 left happily after receiving the money. Then a very beautiful girl brought a pot of brewed hot tea, then left and closed the door of the reception room. Seeing Bielsa coming in, Xia Xingchen made a gesture of invitation. Please sit down and have some tea. Bielsa sat down carefully and looked at Xia Xingchen very vigilantly. His eyes were full of vigilance and distrust. However, in order to hide his uneasiness, he took a sip of tea and then looked at Xia Xingchen coldly. You are free, no longer a slave. You can go wherever you want. I won't stop you. Xia Xingchen's words made Bielsa's brain freeze. What is your purpose? No purpose. I was looking for a partner who knows how to drive a spaceship, and I met you. To be honest, I was attracted by your talent. But it doesn't matter if you don't want to help me, but seeing a captain die here so miserably, I don't think it's appropriate, so I saved you. I'm not a pirate, nor a smuggler, and I'm not short of money, so 30,000 star coins is just a drizzle for me. It's a piece of cake. Thank you very much, I'm leaving. Bielsa clasped his fists and stood up to leave. Don't worry, you are penniless now. This is Hell Planet. How can you leave and live? Will you be caught and sold as a slave after eating a free meal? Xia Xingchen looked at him teasingly. I will go to work. I believe I can still earn a living. Haha. Xia Xingchen laughed out loud after hearing what he said. This is Hell Planet. There are slaves everywhere. There is the cheapest labor force in the entire galaxy. Where can you find a job? Can you compete with them? Besides, what else can you do besides driving a spaceship? Xia Xingchen's words pierced Bielsa's inflated bull like a awl. He stopped and sat back dejectedly. He had to admit that what Xia Xingchen said was the truth, the bloody truth. Don't leave in a hurry. Sit down and have some tea. Let's have a good chat. Although I only spent 30,000 star coins to buy you, it cost 10 million star coins to treat you in the BO cabin in these 5 days. It doesn't matter where you go, but don't let the slave traders take you away soon, otherwise I will be a victim, right? Xia Xingchen said calmly. Besides, I spent so much money on you, I don't ask you to repay me, but at least you have to tell me who you are and how you got here. Bielsa calmed down, picked up the cup, took a big sip of tea, and said, my name is Bielsa Rodriguez. Xia Xingchen felt that he had heard this name vaguely somewhere. So he asked Carlos in his mind. Now the one who stayed at Gemini 5 to command the robot to modify the Count Dracula was only Colossus' clone, and the real body was still here with Xia Xingchen. Carlos quickly entered Skynet and entered the name. Soon, a large piece of information entered Xia Xingchen's mind. It turned out to be him. Xia Xingchen finally had an idea. In the reception room of the suite in the Golden City Hotel, Xia Xingchen learned that the slave he rescued was named Bielsa Rodriguez. He asked Carlos to look up Rodriguez's information on Skynet and found that Rodriguez was actually quite famous. He was the captain of a famous ocean-going expedition team in the Milky Way. This expedition team was funded by the royal family of the Galactic Empire. They constantly searched for habitable planets, production planets, and opened up new routes in those remote and complex star regions. Captain Bielsa Rodriguez and his spacecraft, the Galaxy Exploration Large Space Exploration spacecraft, found 6 star systems with habitable planets and 8 new wormholes in more than 20 years, and won the Royal Special Contribution Award issued by Qinzheng, the Emperor of the Galactic Empire at that time. Even the textbooks of the Imperial Military Command Academy specially introduced him. Xia Xingchen learned about the relevant content when he was reading the relevant textbooks in the library. However, Skynet said that the last time people saw him and his galaxy exploration was UC. On November 24, 2014, at the Death Star Hotel. They were about to go on an expedition to the Death Star region, but then they lost contact and there was no news for 5 years. According to the supply situation on the spacecraft, the supplies were only enough to support them for 1 year, so some people speculated that they had died. Chapter 387 Bielsa's story. It's Mr. Bielsa. I'm sorry. The story of you and your Galaxy Explorer is widely known in our Explorer circle. I just heard that you lost contact 5 years ago. Can you tell me what happened? Xia Xingchen said sincerely. Hearing the words Galaxy Explorer, Bielsa's eyes were a little moist, and he fell into a deep silence. Xia Xingchen's words evoked a memory that he didn't want to recall, but he suppressed these things for 5 years. He needed someone to listen to his story, so he told Xia Xingchen. Bielsa was born into a family of interstellar exploration. The ancestors of their family were the first group of people to leave the solar system. Since then, dozens of generations of their family have been famous space explorers. There was once a saying that 3% of the territory of the current galactic empire was opened up by the Rodriguez family. Don't underestimate this 3%. 3% of the Milky Way is a terrible concept. Bielsa was also a child who grew up on a spaceship. Since he was a child, he entered the Royal Military Academy of Xianyuan Star at the age of 14. Because he was very diligent and talented, he graduated from the Intermediate Battleship Command Department at the age of 19 and personally commanded the large spacecraft Galaxy Exploration specially customized by the Rodriguez family to embark on the road of space exploration. He has achieved brilliant results in the past 20 years. He has become a leader among the space explorers of this generation. Maybe his life was too smooth, and he had not experienced any setbacks, so he became a little arrogant. So, regardless of the ancestral teachings of the family and the obstruction of the elders in the family, he resolutely embarked on the road to the Death Star region, to open up a new route. The Rodriguez family has rich experience in space exploration for thousands of years. Through this experience, they can roughly judge which places in space cannot be easily set foot in, and these star regions have left the bloody lessons of their family ancestors. The first forbidden area is the Death Star region. As the saying goes, if you don't listen to the old people, you will suffer losses in front of you. Bielsa soon encountered retribution. Shortly after his spaceship left the Death Star Hotel, it was besieged by hundreds of small spaceships. Although he was experienced, and the Galaxy Explorer had a good force, they were surrounded by pirates under the special celestial conditions of the Death Galaxy. The guards on the Galaxy Explorer were slaughtered, and the pirates attacked the spacecraft. They killed anyone they saw. Bielsa's wife, 2 sons and daughter-in-law were all killed, and he was also captured alive by the pirates. The Galaxy Explorer was transformed by the pirates and sold at a high price. Because he was still famous in the Milky Way, the pirates did not kill him, but sold him to the Omaha family, who sent slave teams to buy slaves everywhere. Pirates in various parts of the Milky Way are also important sources of slaves. After the robbery, they temporarily detained the captives and sold them to slave traders to make a fortune. So Bielsa was given an injection and locked in a cryogenic freezer to freeze him, and finally came to Hellstar. The concept of cryonics technology has been proposed since the Earth era. Humans are quickly frozen in a special medium, and their metabolism stagnates. When the time is right, they will be thawed, and their metabolism will resume. Through cryogenic freezing technology, human life expectancy is expected to increase to 700 to 800 years. The earliest cryogenic human body freezing was used in medicine. For some people with incurable diseases, the current medical level could not treat them, so the human body was frozen, and the disease stopped deteriorating. After 100 years, when the medical level developed to a certain level, it was thawed for treatment. Later, cryogenic freezing technology was applied to space exploration and space travel. Due to the limited level of human technology in the early days, it took at least 40 years to fly from the Earth to the orbit of Pluto at the edge of the solar system, which was almost half of a human's life at that time. In order to solve this problem, people thought of cryogenic freezing technology. After the spacecraft is launched from the Earth to the space orbit, the astronauts will adjust the course in advance and set the program for the spacecraft to run. Then the astronauts enter the cryogenic freezing chamber to freeze themselves. After decades, when the spacecraft arrives at its destination, the set program will thaw and wake up the astronauts to continue their mission. But this risk is very high. Once there is a equipment failure or the spacecraft hits an asteroid, they may never wake up. Human beings first used cryonics for space travel, and 80% of astronauts died in space due to equipment failures and celestial disasters. Later, with the development of human science and technology, the speed of spacecraft increased rapidly, and humans invented space jump technology, so the method of using cryonics for space travel was basically abandoned. However, most long-distance spacecraft are also equipped with freezing chambers, which is to keep a glimmer of life for themselves in dangerous situations. In order to save food and transport as many slaves as possible during space travel, the spacecrafts that transport slaves in space are almost densely packed with large freezing chambers. Each freezing chamber is filled with slaves like sardine cans, and they are collectively frozen. Bielsa, who arrived at Hellstar, refused to work for slave traders and star pirates. After being beaten and tortured inhumanely, he was passed on dozens of hands by slave traders, and was finally rescued by Xia Xingchen. Speaking of this, Bielsa shed tears of regret. He hated his own self-righteousness, and killed his family. It also brought him 5 years of hellish days. But there is no regret medicine in this world. Northern Empire, Heaven Star. Xia Xingchen was in the reception room of his suite in the Golden City Hotel, listening to the captain of the spaceship, the famous space explorer Bielsa. Rodriguez told the tragic story that happened to him. It can be said that his tragedy was caused by his character, and it was too late to regret it now. Looking at Bielsa, who was crying, Xia Xingchen did not speak, but let him vent the emotions that had been suppressed for 5 years. After more than half an hour, he stopped crying. Seeing Bielsa, Rodriguez completely calmed down, and Xia Xingchen asked, "So Mr. Bielsa, what are your plans for the next step?" "I want revenge. Revenge for my family." Bielsa hammered the table viciously, and said with gritted teeth. But soon, he lowered his head with a decadent expression. Chapter 388, Get a Captain. What can I do in my current state? How can I avenge my family? Xia Xingchen comforted him and then asked, Mr. Bielsa, I have been to the Death Planet and the Death Star Hotel many times over the years, and I have a good relationship with Judge Merc of the Death Star Hotel. I want to know which group of pirates attacked and hijacked the Galaxy Explorer and killed your family? Aquinovi pirates. Bielsa gnashed his teeth in hatred when he said this name. Hearing this familiar name, Xia Xingchen showed a very strange expression on his face. He seemed to be hesitant to speak. Sir, please speak directly. No matter how bad the news is, I can hold on. Bielsa thought Xia Xingchen was going to tell him how powerful the Aquinovi pirates were. Mr. Bielsa, I regret to tell you that your wish to personally seek revenge on Aquinovi's star pirates is difficult to achieve. Because in the second half of last year, the entire Aquinovi star pirates was wiped out by the 6th Squadron of the 3rd Fleet of the Galactic Empire. Aquinovi's ship was destroyed by the Tangyang high-speed mecha cruiser on the way to escape, and Aquinovi died a long time ago. Is this true? Bielsa looked incredulous. How did you know? Also, I forgot to ask what your name is? I'm Colonel Xia Xingchen, a mecha division on the Tangyang belonging to the 6th Squadron of the 3rd Fleet of the Galaxy. I witnessed that battle, so I know it very well. However, Bielsa cast a skeptical look at Xia Xingchen's explanation. Because Xia Xingchen is too young, how can a young man of only 20 years old become a colonel? You know, colonels are all powerful figures in the army of the Galactic Empire. Bielsa is funded by the royal family of the Galactic Empire, and he is familiar with some senior officials of the Royal Fleet. Even in the Royal Fleet where promotion is easier, there are no colonels under 30 years old. Moreover, he knows the inside story of the army very well. Even those royal children and high-ranking officials who come to the army to gild themselves, without real military merit, it is difficult for them to continue to be promoted, even if they are promoted to captain. What puzzled him most was that, although he was isolated from the news on Hellstar, he also heard the news that the Northern Administrative Region was independent and entered a state of war with the Galactic Empire. Now, such a senior officer of the Galactic Empire military appeared in the hinterland of the Northern Empire in a swaggering manner, which was very unreasonable, and he had to be full of doubts. Xia Xingchen smiled when he saw this scene. It was not the first time that he was questioned because of his age. Mr. Bielsa, I know you have some doubts about my identity. This is normal, because I'm too young. Although he had been disguised, his current face looked like he was in his early 20s. Let me tell you this. I'm here to perform a special mission. My name here is our crossing. In addition, I have another identity. I'm the guardian knight of Princess Kinjana. In addition, I'm also a C-class mecha master and a senior mecha repairman. My military rank was earned bit by bit through my own military exploits. Xia Xingchen patiently explained to him. He knew that this Bielsa was a proud person. If he wanted to get his approval, he had to show the real thing. So, what you just said about the destruction of the Aquinovi Star Pirates group is true? Carlos was really shocked by these identities. Xia Xingchen said. That's right. Xia Xingchen said this while asking Carlos to take out a large capacity storage device from his portable mecha space station, which contained the video of the battle at that time. He asked Carlos to transfer the data in it to his personal terminal. It records the battle video of the Tangyang. This is the battle video of the Tangyang shared by Xia Xingchen's Dragon Rider flying General Mecha through the data link at that time. Moreover, every excellent mecha master will save his own battle video and analyze it from time to time, which is very beneficial to improve his own skills. Seeing Aquinovi's flagship being cut in half by the plasma cannon of the Tangyang and turned into a ball of fire in space, Bielsa burst into tears. God has eyes. Leo, Digo, Mariah, your revenge has been avenged, and I have no regrets, even if I die now. Xia Xingchen sat there silently, and through the inside skill, he saw the rich blue light emanating from him, and he could feel the sadness of Bielsa. When Bielsa could no longer cry, Xia Xingchen said to him, Captain Bielsa, now is a time of national crisis. I'm taking great risks to infiltrate the Northern Empire this time. I have a special mission. I hope you can help us for the sake of the royal family and the country. Now the border between the two countries is blocked. We will return to Shiniu Star after completing the mission of the Northern Empire. At that time, I will not stop you from going anywhere you want. I don't want to see your knowledge and skills go to waste here. Facing Xia Xingchen's earnest persuasion, Bielsa stood up. Mr. Xia Xingchen, don't say anything. My life is yours from now on. I'm willing to serve you at all costs. Xia Xingchen saw the red light radiating from Bielsa's body through the inside skill, which represented his wholehearted loyalty to himself. He was very happy. Welcome to join, Captain Bielsa. Xia Xingchen dealt with Captain Bielsa, Rodriguez, and Keele's work of gathering information in the past few days was also over. The two people conspired in the room. Ale, what's the situation on Gemini now? Xia Xingchen was very concerned about the situation here. It seems peaceful, but my intuition tells me that there is murderous intent here. The Korovin family is now managed by a man named Kaio. He used to be Fermi Korovin's deputy. He was the one who stayed in Gemini to handle specific matters when Fermi was not there. But this man is good at flattering and has no real ability. He is okay as a deputy, but he is not capable enough to be the boss, and the other major families may not by his account. Keele focused on finding out the news about the Korovin family. After all, on Gemini, other major families only follow the Korovin family. Chapter 389 Situation. Xia Xingchen suddenly remembered a piece of information Carlos had given him. Combining what Keele had just said, he had a discovery. Ale, Carlos hacked the entire Gemini network, and the central optical computer of the local security forces was also under his control. Look, this is the image taken by the observation satellite in the outer space orbit of Gemini a few days ago. Xia Xingchen projected a video on the big screen through his personal terminal and saw a large Isobus-class large mecha cruiser secretly landing in the atmosphere from the end of Heaven Star away from Hellstar. After several images were enlarged, the purple Cosmos family emblem on the spacecraft could be clearly seen. Xia Xingchen then introduced, this purple Cosmos is the family emblem of the Korovin family, and being able to come on such a large warship means that he is a heavyweight. The loss of such a large warship taking off and landing in the atmosphere is astronomical. But they still did it. I analyzed that their purpose was to cover up their tracks, and on the other hand, this spaceship also carried a large number of mecha troops. I analyzed that the real person in charge of the Korovin family may have arrived at Heaven Star. Keele nodded. And I found that in recent days there have been vehicles secretly leaving the residences of Chenziguan, Old Omaha and Takeda Jiufu, and heading to a secret manor of the Korovin family. They went there at about the same time, so they must be plotting something. Kaio's influence alone might not make the other families so servile. There must be a big boss behind them. However, the other families, including the Korovin family, have recently been frequently showing goodwill to the Xiumo family in various fields. Xia Xingchen smiled. This is called a weasel paying New Year's greetings to a chicken. It has no good intentions. What countermeasures does the Xiumo family have? Keele shook his head. It's the same as before. There is no change. You are good. I'm good. Everyone is good. It seems that they have no sense of crisis at all. This is exactly where old man Xiumo is so smart. He must have a powerful backup. For such a large family to dominate the Gemini for so many years, it must have the wisdom of a fox. Xia Xingchen and Keele stayed here for another 3 days, and they were going to continue collecting intelligence. Bielsa wore a fake slave collar specially made by Xia Xingchen around his neck, and locked himself in the room with a sour face all day long. This was a show for Xianali. In fact, he was actively recovering in the room. 3 days later, they left Xianali behind again, and took the space shuttle directly to the Gemini 5 satellite. In these 7 or 8 days, most of the transformation of the Count Dracula had been completed. Xia Xingchen introduced Bielsa to his companions, and everyone was happy to have such an experienced captain in the team. Especially Julian. Bielsa was his childhood idol. When he was born, Bielsa was already famous in the circle. Bielsa was also shocked by Xia Xingchen's small group. These people were simply monsters. There were 4 C-class mecha divisions. However, when he got the modification drawings of the Count Dracula and saw the parameters on it, he completely fell in love with this spaceship. Since it looked like a merchant ship, several external turrets on the outside of the ship were removed. Carlos installed 4 more light shield systems for warships on the outside of the ship, which greatly enhanced its anti-strike capability. Carlos upgraded the original 4 Mirage systems, and the number increased to 6. This greatly enhanced the stealth capability of the spacecraft. The spacecraft could originally accommodate 20 mechas, but because they did not have so many mecha divisions, they only retained 10 mecha positions, and the other 10 mecha positions were transformed into positions for small space fighters, which could be directly controlled by Carlos. In addition, the nuclear power engine, thrusters and other accessories of the spacecraft were also completely new. The reason for such high efficiency is that most of the parts were processed in Carlos's artificial intelligence space. Then 200 intelligent robots worked frantically day and night. Now, except for the weapon system, other modifications have been completed. Of course, the price is that Carlos consumed a lot of energy. Carlos consumed not mental power, but energy when taking items from his intelligent mecha space and modifying machine parts. In order to solve this problem, when they were buying spaceship accessories, he asked Xia Xingchen to buy 2 small spaceships with controlled nuclear fusion reactors and send them into the artificial intelligence space. Carlos modified the 2 reactors, and all the energy of the modified reactors was supplied to his body. In addition, the large nuclear fusion engine on the Count Dracula was also put into use in advance to charge other robots. Mr. Bielsa, this Count Dracula is handed over to you. Let's immediately conduct the first trial voyage and run-in of the power system, Xia Xingchen said. After all, the power system of the spacecraft has undergone a major transformation and must be run-in. Even if Carlos has powerful abilities, he is not a god. Okay, everyone get on board. Bielsa was in high spirits. At this time, his entire temperament changed dramatically, and a strong sense of self-confidence and majesty returned to him. Okay, but our crossing, the operation of such a medium-sized battleship requires at least 5 people. Julian and I are definitely not enough. We need you to help play the role of the driver. I wonder if you have ever driven a spaceship. Bielsa suddenly thought of this question. Xia Xingchen smiled slightly. This is not a problem. Let alone medium-sized battleships. Even large battleships and space carriers will not lack drivers, as long as Carlos is here. Carlos nodded very humanely, and then clapped his hands. The robots who were working hard quickly became busy like chicken blood. After more than 10 minutes, the surface preparation work of the spacecraft was completed. A large number of robots got off the spacecraft and came to the dock. The weapons were continued to be transformed and assembled on the dock. Carlos issued another order, and 50 robots removed the universal mecha maintenance arms on their bodies, revealing mechanical arms like human hands. Then the 50 robots lined up in a neat row and walked towards the Count Dracula. Chapter 390 Trial. Except for Carlos, everyone was dumbfounded. Carlos laughed happily and said, "The pilot is already in place. It's time for us to set off." The group boarded the Count Dracula. They were surprised to find that every cabin in the spacecraft that needed people to be on duty had a robot in place. They came to the spacious cockpit and found that except for the captain's seat and the row of 8 seats for passengers behind the captain, all other seats were occupied by robots. Carlos pointed to the captain's seat and said, "Mr. Bielsa, that's your seat. Just issue the instructions normally. I guarantee that these robot pilots will do a better job than humans." His tone was full of confidence. Bielsa looked at Xia Xingchen and others. Although the technology of robot-assisted driving of spacecraft has been developed for thousands of years, without the assistance of artificial intelligence, these robots can only play some basic auxiliary roles. He has never seen anyone like Carlos who handed everything to robots. Not only him, but also several other humans have never seen it. Only Xia Xingchen knows how powerful Carlos is. "Captain Bielsa, I know Carlos. He is not a boastful person. Besides, if there are any problems, he will quickly take over the flight. These robots are not controlled by the spacecraft's optical computer, but by Carlos himself." Xia Xingchen hurriedly explained to Carlos, and Carlos nodded. "Okay, Count Dracula, get ready to go." Bielsa gave the order. He was a little impatient to return to this position again. After 5 years, he was finally back. Bielsa sat down in the captain's command position, and the others sat behind him. "Captain, should we remove the cover and raise the cockpit?" The robot sitting in the main driving position suddenly asked. There are generally two types of cockpits for spaceships. One is the traditional open cockpit exposed to the outside, and the situation outside the spaceship can be directly seen through the reinforced glass. The other is a hidden cockpit. The entire cockpit is completely hidden outside the hull, and the situation outside the spaceship is observed through a large screen and various detectors. Now their Count Dracula looks like a hidden cockpit. The advantage of an open cockpit is that it has a wide field of view and can directly observe the situation outside the cockpit, while the driver's mood can be more comfortable. But the disadvantage is that the protection is poor. Even the best glass is not as good as alloy, and the protection efficiency of the light shield system will be reduced by half at the position of the glass. Therefore, the cockpit is always attacked first in space battles. In order to solve this problem, humans invented a hidden cockpit, which solved the problem that the cockpit of a spaceship is easily attacked. However, the hidden cockpit also has its defects. The first is that it relies too much on cameras and sensors. Once the sensors and cameras are damaged and fail in complex space environments and battlefield environments, the spacecraft becomes blind. In addition, the field of view of the concealed cockpit is also limited, and it is not as comfortable as direct observation by the human eye. Moreover, the concealed cockpit is a closed space. Staying in it for a long time will make the driver feel depressed and even induce claustrophobia. Later, with the development and progress of science and technology, humans invented the coverable cockpit. Under normal driving conditions, the cockpit is an open cockpit exposed to the outside, and when a battle occurs, the cockpit can be sunk to the inside of the spacecraft and covered to become a concealed cockpit. However, such technology has increased the cost of the spacecraft a lot, and such technology is only used on a few high-end warships. Bielsa did not expect that the Count Dracula would have such equipment, and he was very happy for a while. So he decisively gave the order, remove the cockpit cover. As soon as the voice fell, the sound of mechanical operation was heard around the cockpit, and the cockpit of the spacecraft actually rose up. Through the three huge reinforced glass, a 270-degree panoramic view can be obtained, and the situation in the entire dock can be clearly seen. Bielsa's mood at this time is as comfortable as drinking a large glass of ice-cold beer in the dog days of summer. Count Dracula, turn on the machine and perform system detection. The robot quickly operated, and after more than 10 seconds, all the indicator lights and screens lit up. Engine start. Run for 5 minutes at 5% power. Fix the mechanical arm contact. Open the upper and front parts of the dock and clear the dock. Engine power 10%. Thrusters move forward at a slow speed. The spacecraft leaves the dock. Turn on the trial navigation indicator. Azimuth 34, 89, 90. Engine power 15%. Run for 5 minutes. Engine power 20%. Run for 5 minutes. Engine power 98%. Run for 20 minutes. Azimuth 95, 78, 69. Engine power 80%. Return to the dock. A few dozen minutes later, the Count Dracula, whose sea trial had ended, slowly sailed into the dock. During this sea trial, they conducted a comprehensive test of the engine, thrusters, detectors, and mirage system. The weapon system and the light shield system were not installed yet, so they were not tested this time. The spacecraft stopped steadily in the dock. The fixed mechanical arm and various cables connected the spacecraft, and the entire dock was tightly closed. Everyone applauded Bielsa's wonderful command. Because Carlos's robot driver's reaction rate is much faster than human operation, this requires the captain to quickly adapt to the driver's rhythm when issuing instructions. Captain Bielsa adapted to the rhythm of the robot driver in just 1 minute. His command was perfectly integrated with the operation of the robot driver. Bielsa was also very excited. The performance of this spacecraft is not inferior to his Galaxy Explorer, especially the robot driver, which surprised him. If there were a few such robot drivers back then, perhaps the Galaxy Explorer could have escaped the encirclement of Aquinovi's star pirate group. Everyone got off the spaceship while chatting and happily discussing what needed to be adjusted. The robot pilots also lined up to get off the spaceship, put on the universal mecha repair arm again, and started the intense work of installing the weapon system. At this time, the spaceship maintenance factory received news that someone wanted to find the owner of the spaceship. Xia Xingchen was very surprised. He didn't seem to have any acquaintances here. So the group came to the reception room. Chapter 391 Uninvited Guests. Count Dracula had passed the first phase of the sea trial and achieved great success. With excellent performance of the spacecraft, experienced captain, and very efficient and reliable robot pilot, everyone's psychology was immediately relieved. They returned to the dock happily, and then the spacecraft maintenance plant said that someone was looking for the owner of Count Dracula. Xia Xingchen was a little strange. He didn't know anyone here, and didn't know who was looking for him. In the reception room, Xia Xingchen finally met two people who were looking for him. One of them was a young woman with long fiery red hair, a hot body, and a beautiful face. She was wearing a set of clothes that looked like leather, but it was not leather, but a special material that was fire resistant and breathable. The biggest difference between this woman and ordinary people is that her pupils are red. She gives people the feeling that her whole temperament is like a ball of fire. The other person is a man with short blonde hair, but unlike many blonde and blue-eyed white people, his eyes are not blue but black. The man has very white skin, is about 185 centimeters tall, and has a handsome appearance. His eyes were deep, but he gave people a very gloomy feeling. He was wearing a black dress-style combat suit, and his eyes swept over everyone, as if he was scanning prey, which made people very uncomfortable. Wang Ke in the crowd saw these two people and was trembling with fear. Xia Xingchen used the inside skill to feel that these two people emanated a grey light, which represented a kind of hostility. The woman came forward and said to Xia Xingchen, who was in the middle of the crowd and seemed to be the leader, "I have taken a fancy to your spaceship. I will give you 10 billion Singapore dollars. You can go away with the money and leave the ship to me." Her tone was full of arrogance and condescending attitude. Nina strode forward and pointed at the girl's nose. "Who do you think you are? How dare you talk to my master like that?" The woman saw Nina coming out, took a look, and found that Nina had a better figure and delicate skin than her. She was immediately jealous. She punched Nina without saying anything. Nina was not a pushover either. She kicked the red-haired girl in the head. The red-haired girl dodged, and the two fought. Neither side expected that the two women would be evenly matched. After fighting for 200 or 300 rounds without a clear winner, the red-haired woman was a little anxious, but she still had a trick to use. She suddenly changed her moves, and the original open and close move suddenly turned into a close-range fight. Nina did not dare to neglect, and also went forward. Soon, the two people's hands were entangled together, and they attacked each other with their legs and knees. This was exactly what the red-dressed woman wanted. Her hands were tightly clasped with Nina's hands, and both sides could not move. Suddenly, the red-haired girl's hands began to emit strong heat, and soon a ball of fire appeared on her hands. It turned out that this red-haired woman was a psychic with fire-type telekinesis. The red-haired woman thought that Nina's hands would be burned into carbon by the hot flames, but she didn't expect that a strong electric current would suddenly be released from her hands. A huge electric energy collided with her fire energy, releasing a huge shockwave, which bounced the two back. The woman in red sat on the ground unsteadily, looking very embarrassed, while Nina was embraced by Xia Xingchen's arms, and leaned into his arms. Nina smiled happily, while the woman in red had a gloomy face, and it seemed that flames could be released from her eyes. At this time, the man in black moved, and a strange aura was instantly released from his body. The only function of this aura was to bring fear to people. The powerful force of fear suppressed almost everyone present. Boom. Julian, Wang Ke and others were all frightened and collapsed to the ground, but Keelan, Xia Xingchen, Miyamoto Kenichi and the two Terami people were not affected that much. However, they still felt very depressed in their hearts, and were unable to breathe. What was more fatal was that under the influence of this powerful momentum, their bodies suddenly became uncontrollable within a few seconds. At this time, the man in black raised a cruel smile at the corner of his mouth, and rushed towards several people at a rapid speed. His hands were like knives, stabbing Xia Xingchen and Nina respectively. Xia Xingchen and others were extremely anxious, but their bodies did not have time to recover from stiffness. At this critical moment, a strong figure rushed out from behind them and punched the man in black in the face. The man's body flew backwards and was knocked more than 10 meters away. He fell heavily to the ground and spurted out of his mouth There were also a few teeth mixed in the blood. The red-haired woman hurried forward to help him up. "Third brother, how are you? Let's go quickly and ask the eldest brother for help," the man in black said. The situation is not good for them now. They already know that they have kicked the iron plate. The two turned around and ran out of the reception room. The red-haired woman turned around and said bitterly, "You guys are dead. Those who offend us 6 ghosts don't even think about leaving Gemini alive." Soon they disappeared from everyone's sight. Xia Xingchen asked everyone seriously and found that there was no big problem. It was just Wang Ke, who was still trembling at this time. His whole body was emitting a deep purple light. It was a manifestation of extreme fear. "What's wrong with you, Wang Ke? That person is gone. It's okay," Xia Xingchen persuaded. Unexpectedly, Wang Ke suddenly fell to his knees with a plop, tears, and tears. "Mr. Crossing, please let me go. I can't continue to be your guide. I don't want today's money. I just want to live. Please let me go." Xia Xingchen frowned. He felt that Wang Ke's current behavior must be related to the two people just now. He took out a bill of 100,000 star coins and handed it to Wang Ke. "You can go. This is your reward for today. But before you go, you have to tell me why you died for being our guide. Who are the two people just now? Is it related to them?" Xia Xingchen said the questions in his mind. Wang Ke said tremblingly, "Just now, those two people were two of the Gemini's 6 ghosts. They are all powerful psychics, and they are all sea-level mecha masters with strong military power. Even the 4 major families and the security forces of Gemini dare not provoke them. Moreover, these people are very arrogant and domineering, and they will take revenge for any slight. Those who offend them will become corpses. I'm still young and don't want to be implicated. If they know my identity, they will kill my whole family. I want to go back to school. Wu go, Wang Ke, take care." Xia Xingchen waved his hand in the direction of the door. Wang Ke felt as if he had been pardoned and quickly got up and ran away. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 392 Gemini 6 Ghosts. Looking at Wang Ke's back, Keela sighed deeply. Alas, what a clever child, such a good seedling. I originally wanted to teach him something and take him away from this dangerous place. It's a pity that this child has no courage and determination and is destined to achieve nothing. Keela felt that Wang Ke was very similar to his past self, so he wanted to train him. Unfortunately, today's incident made him change his view of Wang Ke. Xia Xingchen patted Keela on the shoulder. Everyone has their own ambitions, and they can't be forced. Think about it from another angle. If he hadn't been so careful, he might have died on this Gemini star a long time ago. In other words, he is luckier than us. We have come to this point today because of fate. We have no choice but to fight all the way. And he still has a choice. In addition, it also depends on fate. The few of us came together in the vast universe because of fate. And Wang Ke, it's just fate. Then he said, Carlos, you can check the Gemini Skynet to find out what the 6 ghosts are. To scare Wang Ke like this, these 6 ghosts must not be unknown people. Carlos agreed, and the search program in the main body began to run at high speed in the local area network of Gemini. Soon he got the answer. The 6 ghosts of Gemini are a small group led by a man with full mechanical prostheses and 5 other people with special powers. They seem to be born on the Hellstar and have only come to the fore in recent years, but they are very famous. They form a group of adventurers, but to put it bluntly, they are star pirates. But these people are special powers themselves, with strong martial arts, and they are all sea-level mecha masters. Within the scope of Gemini, no one can do anything to them, so they became the tyrants of Gemini. These people are very united. If one of them is bullied, he will be severely retaliated by the others. Moreover, these people are cruel and ruthless. Every time they retaliate, they will cut the grass and root out, leaving no one alive. So Wang Ke's reaction just now is not surprising. Everyone fell silent. They knew they were in big trouble. Xia Xingchen raised his head. Carlos, introduce these people. At least we have to know them. We don't cause trouble, but we are also determined not to be afraid of trouble. Carlos continued to introduce the boss of the 6 ghosts. The mechanical ghost also has a resounding nickname called Mechanical Wisdom, and his name is Shang. Shang is a resourceful person and the leader and think tank of the 6 ghosts. He is also a full mechanical prosthesis user, a SEAL level mecha master. His mechanical prosthesis is the work of Dr. Afa, and his combat effectiveness is very strong. The second of the 6 ghosts, the Rock Ghost, also has a resounding nickname called Exploding Rock Palooza. This person has infinite human power, and he is a psychic. He can form rock-like rock layers on the surface of his body, which means that petrification, alloy swords and anti-material sniper rifles cannot break his body's defense. He is a D-level mecha master. His melee ability is almost the strongest among the 6 ghosts, but his mecha driving skills are the worst among the 6 ghosts. The third of the 6 ghosts is called the Heart-Scaring Ghost, the man in black you just saw. He also has a nickname called the Fearful Demon King Brunswick. He is a monster whose mental power level has reached level 32. Brunswick's mental telekinesis ability is that he can launch mental attacks. His mental power can affect other people's emotions, and anyone with a lower mental power level than him will be affected by him. Just now, you were attacked by his special trick, the Aura of Fear. People within 5 meters of his body will be subjected to indiscriminate and continuous mental attacks. His mental power will directly affect your brain waves, and you will have a negative emotion of fear towards him. People with poor psychological quality will be scared to death. The fourth of the 6 ghosts is the red-haired woman, the Flame Ghost Inova, nicknamed the Flame Scorpion. She is a person with the ability to fire. This woman is as vicious as a snake, and under her beautiful appearance is a vicious soul. The 5th ghost of the 6 ghosts is the most terrifying, the vampire, Sir Rusfan. It is said that this person loves to suck human blood and is a real vampire. His speed and strength are amazing, several times that of an ordinary person, and it is said that he is immortal, even if his heart is pierced by a bullet. The 6th ghost among the 6 ghosts is a little girl under 20 years old, a naughty girl named Elisa, and her nickname is the Devil's Left Hand. This little girl's left hand is weird. It can directly destroy the molecular chain of any object, anything, as long as it touches her left hand, will disintegrate. The only thing that can resist his ability is Xia Xingchen silk. She wears a pair of gloves made of Xia Xingchen silk every day, which conceal the ability of her left hand. Elisa has a quirky personality and likes to play pranks, so she got the nickname of Naughty Ghost. Among these people, except for the Rock Ghost, all of them are SEAL level mecha masters. No wonder the military of the Northern Empire also has to give them face. Whether it is the military or the 4 major families, if they want to eat them, they may have to break a few teeth. In short, we will face a strong enemy. For a while, the atmosphere in the room was very solemn. Xia Xingchen stood up and said, although the 6 ghosts are very strong, we are not bad at all. But we can't be careless. From today on, everyone will move into the Count Dracula. If you go out, you need to travel with more than 3 people. Carlos, transfer the Mechas on the Malevolence to the Count Dracula. The Malevolence will be controlled by your robot. If the situation is really critical, I will allow the Malevolence to perish with the enemy. At the same time, in a dock at the other end of the Gemini 5 satellite, a medium-sized spacecraft is undergoing a major overhaul. The 6 Brothers and Sisters spacecraft is more than 90 years old. Although its performance is excellent, it has to face a major overhaul now. Especially 2 weeks ago, when they pretended to be a merchant ship to rob a cargo ship on the route. The other party was desperate and crashed into the 6 Brothers and Sisters. The 6 Brothers and Sisters barely flew back to Gemini 5 with great difficulty. Now the spacecraft can't even guarantee the most basic navigation, so it can only enter the dock for a major overhaul. In addition, the warning and security of the dock will be handed over to Carlos. Boom. If you are willing, you can prepare some gifts for those uninvited guests. Boom and Carlos nodded in agreement. Chapter 393 Gemini 6 Ghosts. Just now, they accidentally saw the Count Dracula, which was on a sea trial. The excellent performance of the spacecraft aroused the greed of the 6 Brothers and Sisters, so the 3 ghosts, the Fear Demon, Brunswick, and the 4 ghosts, the Flame Scorpion, Inova, volunteered to negotiate. although they offered 11 billion new coins. On Hellstar, new coins are just waste paper, and the actual exchange is only a few 100 million star coins. Moreover, no one would be willing to exchange so many star coins. Xia Xingchen spent 85 billion star coins to buy the Count Dracula, and then spent no less than 80 billion star coins on the spacecraft accessories, fuel, weapon systems, etc. In other words, Xia Xingchen has spent 160 billion star coins on the Count Dracula. This price is actually enough to buy an older large cargo spacecraft. In Over and Brunswick's behavior is robbery. Brunswick's fear or a skill has a very large impact on people who are not prepared. The essence of his move is to use mental power to make the opponent have negative emotions, which in turn affects the body's functions. In psychology, anxiety, tension, anger, depression, sadness, pain, fear, surprise and other emotions are collectively referred to as negative emotions, sometimes also called negative emotions. People call these emotions this way because such emotional experiences are not positive, and the body will feel uncomfortable and even affect the smooth progress of work and life, which may cause physical and mental harm. Although emotions are generated in people's hearts, negative emotions have a huge impact on human physiology. In fact, it is often seen in real life that emotions cause physical discomfort or cause diseases. For example, many stroke patients are related to emotional excitement, especially patients who often have emotions such as anger, quarrels, fear, anxiety, excitement, tension, sadness, jealousy, etc. often have a stroke during or after these intense attacks of emotions. It has been medically confirmed that the stimulation of these negative emotions can cause excitement in the cerebral cortex and hypothalamus, promote the secretion of vasoactive substances such as noradrenaline, adrenaline and catecholamines, lead to systemic vasoconstriction, accelerated heart rate, and increased blood pressure, which increases the pressure in the cerebral blood vessels, making it easy to rupture in the parts that have hardened, lost elasticity, and formed microaneurysms, thereby causing cerebral hemorrhage. Even if there is no cerebral hemorrhage, such a physical reaction is enough to make people lose their fighting power, and can only be slaughtered. The Dreadlord Brunswick killed countless enemies with this trick. At this time, Brunswick was embarrassedly helped into the six brothers and sisters by Nova. He was hit hard on the head by Carlos, and blood spurted out of his nose and mouth, and he had serious concussion symptoms. At that time, he underestimated the enemy. He thought Carlos was an ordinary engineering robot. Now he remembered that it should be a full-body mechanical prosthesis user like their eldest brother Shang. Because many full-body mechanical prosthesis users have installed a protective shield that shields electromagnetic waves on the outside of their brains to prevent external electromagnetic waves from interfering with nerve signals. With such an electromagnetic shield, attacks such as mental power are difficult to work. What he didn't know was that the one attacking him was simply a robot. Mental attacks have no effect on it. Soon, Brunswick was sent to the medical cabin for treatment. The other ghosts sat together and listened to Inova's story about their experience. After she finished her description, everyone fell silent. The boss of the six ghosts, mechanical ghost Shang, is definitely a legendary figure. When he was very young, he encountered space pirates during a space trip with his family. His whole family was sold to Hellstar as slaves. Later, his family gradually separated and no one knew where they were sold, and he was sold to the fake family. The fake family is a new upstart on Hellstar, with only 20 to 30 years of history. They also specialize in training war slaves for sale. It's just that the fake family has cooperated with a mysterious scientific research institution. They look for children with superpowers everywhere, and most of them are sold to this mysterious scientific research institution after being trained into war slaves. Although the number of superpowers is rare, there are more than 10 billion slaves in the entire Hellstar, and some can always be found. When Shang was 12 years old, because he was smart, he was sent to take care of those children with superpowers. It was at that time that Shang slowly met the other 5 ghosts. Although they are all superpowers, most of them have not fully awakened. In order to stimulate their superpowers and potential, the fake family has carried out harsh training on them, which is even more cruel than the death training camp of the Humo family. These children with superpowers suffered both physical and mental torture. In daily life, Xiang took meticulous care of these children and kept cheering them up and giving them hope. Xiang had the same temperament as Xia Xingchen, and soon more than a dozen children with superpowers formed a small group with Xiang as a core. Later, Xiang and their friends discovered that the mysterious scientific research institution had a secret scientific research base somewhere underground on the Hell Star. These children would be sent to the secret base when they were 18 or 19 years old and never came out again. In other words, these children with superpowers might just be the guinea pigs of the Fako family. Upon learning of this news, Xiang and his friends planned an escape. They secretly contacted all the war slaves of the Fako family, told them the truth, gathered them together, and then after careful planning, they rioted. During this riot, the Fako family and the mysterious base were secretly destroyed, and in the laboratory in that base, they also found dozens of human specimens, all made from the bodies of the children with superpowers, who were sent here. Xiang ordered people to blow up the base. However, the Falco family did not sit still and wait for death. They detonated most of the slave collars, killing many slaves. Among their small group, only 6 people including Xiang found the key in time to remove the slave collars and survived. Xiang was not originally named Xiang, but in order to commemorate his companions who died in this battle, he changed his name to Xiang. The word Xiang has 2 meanings. One is to die before adulthood, and the other refers to those who died in battle for the country. He wanted to use this name to remind himself to remember his dead brothers. Chapter 394 Gemini 6 Ghosts. Xiang fled to the space station with the 5 surviving companions. They robbed a spaceship and started a business without capital. They also left a bad reputation on Gemini. However, the 6 brothers and sisters did not care about their reputation at all, because they knew that such a bad reputation was a very good protection for them. Over the years, they have accumulated a lot of money through robbery and even protection fees, but Xiang did not use the money to expand their power, but used it to improve the personal strength of several of them. Because he knew that, although they destroyed the Falco family and their secret laboratory, the mysterious force behind the Falco family did not show up. Xiang knew very well that this mysterious force would come out to trouble them sooner or later, and the numerical advantage in front of these forces was meaningless. Only by constantly improving their own strength can they fight for a glimmer of hope. Later, Xiang was seriously injured in a battle, and multiple organs failed all over his body. The brothers and sisters sent him to the cryogenic freezing chamber and looked for famous doctors everywhere. In the end, seeing that there was no hope, they had to spend a lot of money to send him to Dr. Affa's clinic, which was very famous in the Northern Administrative District. The reason why Dr. Affa is famous in the Northern Administrative region is not because of his superb medical skills and how many people he has saved. On the contrary, countless people have died in his hands. He is keen on human body modification, such as poison stimulation, hormone experiments, animal genes, and even human-animal hybridization. Of course, the installation of mechanical prostheses is also indispensable. His fellow doctors call him a madman, and the Galactic Empire Medical Association has revoked his medical license. In other words, he is now just an illegal black doctor. As for the mechanical prostheses he installed, there is no such thing as balance, comfort, and safety. The survival rate of the full-body mechanical prostheses he installed after surgery is only 5%, and the survival rate is only 1% 3 years after surgery. Most of the survivors died of surgical complications and various sequelae in a very short time. If Xiang had not been in a critical situation, the brothers and sisters would not have gone to Dr. Affa, and now they could only try their best. Fortunately, Xiang turned out to be the only 1%, and he was saved. The mechanical prosthesis designed by Dr. Affa for him has a strong combat effectiveness. The reputation of the 6 ghosts has become even louder. After listening to Yanova's description of Xia Xingchen and others' fighting power, Xiang frowned and quickly ordered his subordinates in charge of intelligence to check the origins of Xia Xingchen and others. Not long after, his subordinates sent news. The big screen in front of them was playing the video of Yugo and Yanma fighting. When Xia Xingchen and the fat man Raylo were fighting, they were still on the way back to Gemini and did not see the live broadcast. Seeing the fight between the two Terami people, several people's faces were a little solemn. Xia Xingchen and his people are still quite capable. Shang spoke. From this video, it can be seen that the two Terami guards of Xing are very strong and cannot be defeated easily. And from the description of the fourth sister, the female slave is actually a psychic who can fight against the fourth sister on equal terms. And one of them has a full body mechanical prosthetic limb. The fact that he can injure the third brother like that shows that he has a certain combat capability. As for the remaining few people, the Japanese with a knife should be quite strong, and the remaining few look like ordinary people. We don't need to fight them head on. We can have someone keep an eye on them and defeat them one by one if they come out alone. If they can't hold on, we will wait until they leave the satellite and then kill them in space and resolve the battle with mecha warfare. Yanova stood up suddenly. Brother, don't let others boast and destroy your own spirit. My third brother and I underestimated the enemy this time. If we fight again, I will definitely kill that woman. And as long as someone blocks the man with full body mechanical prosthetic limbs, the rest of the people can be dealt with by my third brother alone. Besides, the chosen organization wants to recruit us now. If it doesn't work, we can let them do it. Just treat it as a token of surrender. Didn't they say that their chosen organization is very powerful? Then take this opportunity to prove it to us. Shang thought for a while and said again, this can let them be the first to take action and let them explore the way. But there is one thing I want to tell all the brothers and sisters. Our enemy, the mysterious force behind the Falco family, is likely to be the chosen organization. As soon as the voice fell, the room was in chaos. Exploding rock Palooza punched the table with a punch. A big hole was smashed on the alloy tablet top. These bastards, I will kill them. Palooza jumped up and was about to rush out the door, but was held down by Shang. Calm down, sit down. Shang shouted. Among these brothers and sisters, he has absolute prestige. If it weren't for Shang, the brothers and sisters would have collapsed in the cruel training or been sent to the laboratory to be made into specimens. Everyone finally calmed down from the shock. Yanova asked, brother, how did you determine that they were the masterminds behind the Falco family? According to the chosen ones themselves, they are an organization composed of people with special powers, and the selection is very strict, so they refused me to join their organization. But I analyzed the video of their battle with the second and fifth brothers that day, and from the behavioral pattern, they are not pure special powers at all, but have been transformed. I don't know why the patrol anaconda didn't take action, but the muscle type and movement of his subordinate after the transformation are exactly the same as those of cats. I suspect he is a beast gene modifier, and that bat, like the fifth brother, is infected with the vampire virus. Vampires are legendary supernatural creatures that can survive for a long time by drinking the blood of humans or other creatures. The early legends of vampires spread in the Balkan Peninsula and Eastern Europe and Slavic areas. In these legends, vampires refer to the bodies of the dead who crawled out of the grave to suck human blood. The Bible says that Dracula Cain is the ancestor of vampires and the king of vampires. He was one of the two sons of Adam and his wife Eve. Later, Cain killed his brother Abel because of jealousy. He was punished by God and became a vampire. There are records of vampires in other nations on the earth, but they are called differently. Some places call them zombies. Chapter 395 Gemini 6 Ghosts. However, vampires are not just a legend, they are real. Vampires are not born, but ordinary humans are transformed by the vampire virus. A virus named HVV is a culprit for vampire transformation. The virus lives in a flea called SYNOPSIS. SYNOPSIS is a flea found on vampire bats. Vampire bats bitten by these fleas will be infected with the virus. When these carrier bats go out and bite people or animals, they will spread the virus. In theory, HVV can be transmitted through human secretions. However, in all cases, the patients were infected by being bitten by carriers. The process of vampirism caused by human infection with the HVV virus is divided into the following stages. Stage 1. Infection after being bitten. The infected person will begin to feel headaches, fever, and other cold-like symptoms within a few hours. Many people will think it is just a common cold. This stage lasts about 6 to 12 hours. At this stage, as long as the infected person takes the antidote, the cure rate is 100%. Stage 2. Continuous coma. 24 hours after being bitten, the infected person will enter a coma. During this stage, the infected person's pulse will slow down, breathing will become shallow, and pupils will dilate. In ancient times, many people who entered this state were mistakenly thought to be dead and buried. This is also the reason why the rumor of vampires sleeping in coffins was created. Many people think that old people who enter a coma will become vampires, but this is not the case. In fact, only a small number of people can wake up after coma. Usually only people between 18 and 35 years old can survive, and people who are too old or too young will not wake up. This stage lasts about a day. At this stage, the complete recovery rate of taking the antidote is only 50%. The longer the coma, the lower the recovery rate. The essence of this stage is actually the virus transforming the human body. The human genes are broken up and reorganized by the virus, and the organs are also transformed. Most of those who cannot withstand the transformation die in this stage. Stage 3. Completion stage. If the infected person can wake up from the coma, he will become a real vampire. Most vampires will look for prey within 24 hours. At this stage, even if the patient is a great god, it is difficult to save him. Rusfen had his body transformed by this virus when he was a child. Later, when they attacked the underground research institute, they found that more than 30,000 ordinary children had been injected with this virus. They were all under 18 years old and had very poor tolerance. Only Rusfen survived. I analyzed that the laboratory was studying the secrets of the superpowers at the beginning. They even tried to transform ordinary people into superpowers to achieve some ulterior purpose. And these chosen ones were obviously transformed, and their purpose of coming to us was not simple. They really want to know if we are related to the Falco family and the research institute. So we must keep our mouths shut about our origins. Once our identities are exposed, we will be in danger. Then let's kill them. With the abilities of the two sisters, we can kill Ji and Fu, and the remaining anacondas will be left to us. Pelusa hammered the table again, and the alloy table was completely deformed and useless. Absolutely not, that would be confessing. Besides, they are just suspicious now. If we kill them, it would be a case of trying to cover up one's own guilt. If I'm not mistaken, the reason they were able to find us should be related to Dr. Affa, or even Dr. Affa is a member of their organization. But if we kill someone with someone else's knife, it doesn't matter. Shang's mechanical eyes flashed. Okay, I'll listen to you, big brother. Agree. The brothers and sisters echoed. Wait, I have something else to say. A hoarse voice said, and people looked over to the source of the voice. It turned out that the injured Dreadlord Brunswick struggled to walk in, and Rusfen hurried forward to support him. Let me add 2 sentences. First, don't take the initiative to cause trouble to the guy named Axing on the dock. They are definitely not as simple as they seem. I can't see through that guy named Axing and the young man next to him. It's really not suitable to provoke 2 powerful enemies at the same time. Second, we should try not to go out these days. Even if we go out, we should go out together to prevent the people of the Chosen Society from taking hostages to threaten us. Third, from now on, until the people of the Chosen Organization leave, there must be someone to protect Big Brother at all times. The Chosen will definitely think that it was Big Brother who prevented us from joining them, and Big Brother is now in danger. The room fell silent again. However, the Gemini 6 ghosts could never have imagined that Carlos had already hacked into the central optical computer of the 6 brothers and sisters spaceship through the Gemini LAN and easily killed the garbage protection software that could not even be called a firewall in front of him, and obtained the highest authority of the spaceship. The images of the 6 ghosts meeting were transmitted to the Count Dracula by the monitors inside the 6 brothers and sisters, and their voices were also transmitted through the microphone on the ship's pager. The beasts on the Count Dracula were watching the live broadcast. The secret meeting on the 6 brothers and sisters ended, and the meeting on the Count Dracula had just begun. These ignorant superpowers dared to covet our Count Dracula spaceship. Fortunately, they knew what was good for them. Otherwise, I wouldn't mind teaching them a lesson. Superpowers are not only theirs, and can they do whatever they want with superpowers? Keele's eyes were filled with murderous intent. They are not a concern. So what if they are in a mecha battle? They are vulnerable in front of us. Xia Xingchen was full of confidence. His strength has far exceeded that of an ordinary C-class mecha master. Although he has not taken the exam, he has reached the level of a B-class mecha master. What's more, Nina is also a C-class mecha master, Yugo has also reached the level of a C-class mecha master, and Collis can even control 2 bodies with the strength of a C-class mecha master. These 6 ghosts really can't threaten him. Carlos, search for this chosen organization on the internet. Yes, Xingchen. Carlos agreed, and the CPU began to calculate at high speed. Have you heard of this organization? According to LIUGUI's description, this organization is not a good thing, and it has great ambitions. Xia Xingchen is very concerned about this chosen organization. They may be a huge variable in the war that will break out soon, so Xia Xingchen wants to know more about them in advance. Keele waved his hand. I haven't heard of it. It should be a very mysterious organization. You know, there are too few superpowers. The proportion of superpowers in the Milky Way is about 1 in 200 million, and this only includes the number of superpowers that have not awakened. I will post relevant intelligence collection tasks on the Killer's network. But don't be afraid of them. If they know what's good for them, they won't come to provoke us. Once they can't get over it, I don't mind sending them to hell. At this time, Carlos also finished the search, and he shook his head helplessly. Xingchen, I have searched the Northern Empire's local area network, and found no news about the Chosen One. The Galactic Empire Skynet cannot be connected for the time being. And I have only cracked 3% of the central optical computers of the various planets in the Northern Empire so far, and have not found any information related to the Chosen One. Carlos, when the system resources are free, do your best to crack the central optical computers of the various planets and government departments in the Northern Empire, and report to me as soon as you have news. Understood, Xingchen. Chapter 396 Vampire. That night, the inspector from the mysterious organization Chosen, Ao and his 2 followers, Ji and Fu, met with the 6 ghosts again. Ao attended with Ji and Fu. The 6 ghosts were attended by the dread demon Brunswick, the vampire Rusvan and the flame scorpion Snakenova. But everything was the same as before. Brunswick was always playing take-eye. No matter how Ao tried to get the origins of the brothers and sisters, Brunswick just wouldn't let go. Among the 6 brothers and sisters, Brunswick had the highest IQ and the best eloquence except Shang. From the first meeting, they found that several Chosen looked down on Shang, who was not a superpower, so Brunswick came forward in the next few talks. Moreover, regarding Ao's request for the brothers and sisters to join the Chosen, they still insisted that Shang must also join. Otherwise, no discussion. Moreover, during the negotiation, Brunswick also cleverly revealed that they had fought with Xia Xingchen and others and suffered losses, and it seemed that there were also several superpowers on Xia Xingchen's side. This information made Anaconda's eyes light up. The 2 sides argued for a long time without any results, and Brunswick and others said goodbye and left. Anaconda fell into deep thought. G, the heartless guy, went to sleep, and Bat became excited. Anaconda, what are you still hesitating about? We have been here for so long. If we kill that Shang now, they will be leaderless, and will naturally join us, the Chosen Ones. The sooner we complete the task, the sooner we can get the divine potion and complete the evolution. Anaconda glanced at Bat, and the pupils were not human pupils, but the same as those of snakes. Bat felt like a small bat being stared at by a giant snake. His first reaction was to quickly escape from this extremely dangerous guy. But, your body has evolved by the vampire virus, but has your brain degenerated? This Shang situation is very special. Apart from forcibly brainwashing those people, there is no way to offset Shang's influence on them. These people have a very deep relationship with Shang. To what extent, they would not hesitate to exchange their lives for Shang's. In this case, if you kill Shang, the other 5 people will definitely fight us to the death. That Rusvan is much more powerful than you. He has been vampirized since he was very young, and he has actually evolved naturally. This is not something you can deal with. In addition, the abilities of those 2 women are enough to give us a hard time. Forcibly taking action is courting death. Generally speaking, after a human body is infected with a vampire virus and transformed, the body's appearance will never change again, and it can no longer grow or age. This is why vampires are said to have eternal life. However, there are a very small number of vampires who are very young when they are transformed. The vampire virus does not completely kill the vigorous vitality of the original human cells. Therefore, as long as these vampires have sufficient energy and nutrition, they can continue to grow until their bodies reach the strongest age and state before solidification. This kind of evolution is called natural evolution among vampires. The speed and strength of adult vampires after natural evolution are more than twice that of ordinary vampires. Moreover, this kind of evolution can also stimulate the blood power deep in the genes of the vampire virus and evolve special skills unique to the vampire clan. For example, controlling blood escape, bat transformation, etc. Bat was very dissatisfied with the anaconda's statement. The vampire clan believes that they are more noble than other races from the bottom of their hearts. He felt that he should be the inspector this time. However, under the pressure of the anaconda's force, he had to be the deputy. Despite this, he was very dissatisfied with the anaconda's management. So what can we do? Should we wait here for the headquarters to compromise and let them accept a robot with an iron head to join the organization? Or should we wait for the headquarters to send someone to see how incompetent we are? Be patient, but there is an opportunity now. There is a superpower in the team of the person named Xing, and it is said that she is also a beauty. Don't you want to try the taste of superpowers and beauties and make a small fortune by the way? In addition, if we bring one more superpower back to the organization, we can get more mythical potions. As for the 6 ghosts, they can't run away. They still think they are superior. In fact, they are just the raw materials used by the organization to make mythical potions. Humph, don't forget that the 6 ghosts are our main task. Don't pick up sesame seeds and lose watermelons. Although Bat agreed with Anaconda's statement from the bottom of his heart, he didn't give in at all. Do you think that Brunswick will be so kind to tell us this news? He is killing with a borrowed knife, and by the way, he wants to verify our strength. Now is the time for us to show our strength. As long as we show enough strength, we are not afraid that they will not surrender. Thinking of this, Anaconda licked his lips. Okay, let's go now. I'll go call that idiot with strong limbs and simple mind. Bat was very excited and eager to try. The residential cabin of Count Dracula was transformed into 20 small rooms, each of which had bunk beds and could accommodate 2 people. Since most of the crew members on Count Dracula were robots, they did not need separate rooms. They stayed at their posts 24 hours a day. They only needed a charging cable. The combat robots usually stayed in the cargo hold. Of course, when the rooms were allocated, Nina naturally insisted on living in the same room with Xia Xingchen, while Hugo and Yam lived together. It was late at night, and the lighting on the entire Gemini V gradually dimmed. Although many space stations and satellites are far away from the shining of stars, they will also use lighting to forcibly adjust the day and night, which can conform to the human body's own rhythm, and is good for human life. However, at this time, in the dock of a large spacecraft maintenance plant, the lights were bright. The installation of the weapon system of Count Dracula was in full swing. The most important weapon is the large plasma cannon in the ram of the bow. Whether in the Galactic Empire or the Northern Empire, plasma cannons are contraband and are prohibited from use and sale. The plasma cannon of Count Dracula was not originally in their plan. But that day, Xia Xingchen and Carlos accidentally found 2 scrapped plasma cannons when they were buying parts for modifying Count Dracula at the second-hand spacecraft parts market on Gemini V. Xia Xingchen bought it at the price of selling scrap steel. After a lot of calculations, Carlos took out a drawing suitable for Count Dracula, and then they bought a lot of equipment that seemed irrelevant to their modification work. Carlos removed a lot of accessories and materials from these equipment groups and processed them into accessories needed for plasma cannons. The robot used these accessories to combine into a plasma cannon. This plasma cannon incorporates a lot of Manco people's technology, and its maximum effective killing range can reach 800 kilometers when focusing shooting. The most mainstream plasma cannon has a range of only 500 kilometers. Moreover, the charging time and cooling time of this plasma cannon are greatly reduced. It can even fire continuously when the firing power is less than 50%. This is simply unimaginable for a plasma cannon. Chapter 397 Annoying Robot. The three members of the chosen organization sneak towards the dock, where the Count Dracula was located at night. The dim vision brought by the night had no effect on them at all. I guessed correctly that G and Anaconda were both animal genetically modified people. G merged the genes of cats, while Anaconda merged the genes of snakes. Traditional gene fusion technology only merges human genes with the genes of a certain animal, and the crazy chosen organization has carried forward this technology. They mixed the genes of animals belonging to the same category, and then merged them with humans. And that bat was a real vampire virus infected person. Unlike Rusfin, he was transformed after adulthood, so his strength was far inferior to Rusfin. G's pupils can dilate at night like cats. Since cats are animals that forage at night, their pupils can dilate or shrink at will with the changes in light. When it is daytime or the light is bright, the cat's pupils will narrow into a slit. Prevent excessive light from causing damage to the eyes. At night or when the light is dim, the cat's pupil will open completely, become round, and have a large area, which can capture every ray of light, so cats have very good night vision. The genes of anacondas are fused with snakes. Although snakes do not have night vision. However, there are two small holes on both sides of the nose of anacondas, which can capture infrared rays in the air and judge the activities of opponents and prey by temperature. This is a natural infrared imager on his body, which is a common skill of all snakes. Take rattlesnakes as an example. Rattlesnakes are very toxic, and their eyes are almost ineffective against visible light, but they can capture voles and other small animals quickly. After research, people found that this capture ability should be attributed to the rattlesnake's thermal receptors, thermal eyes. Thermal eyes grow in the place called cheek pits between the eyes and nostrils of snakes. The cheek pits are generally 5 mm deep and only 1 cm long. They are trumpet shaped. There are heat collectors outside that can receive infrared radiation from small animals and reflect the external temperature difference and infrared rays to the brain through nerves. The brain issues corresponding commands to guide the venomous snake to hunt for food. The most famous infrared guided weapon before humans entered the space age, the Sidewinder air-to-air missile, was based on humans' imitation and reference to the body function of the Sidewinder. As for bats, since they cannot be exposed to the sun for a long time, they have excellent night vision and dynamic vision. Moreover, since the genes of the vampire virus are 30% the same as those of bats, the vampires also have the ultrasonic detection ability of bats. Bats do not fly at night by their eyes, but by their ears and vocal organs. When bats fly, they will make a scream, which is an ultrasonic signal that humans cannot hear because its audio frequency is very high. If these ultrasonic signals hit other objects on the flight route, they will be reflected back immediately. After receiving the returned information, the bats will complete the entire process of listening, seeing, calculating, and avoiding obstacles between flapping their wings. Scientists call this phenomenon echolocation. Based on the principle of bats flying recognition of objects, humans have created radar, but the accuracy of the instruments on bats is much higher than that of radar. At this time, the door of the dock was tightly closed, but this did not bother the three of them. They quickly opened the cover of the ventilation system and entered the dock through the huge ventilation duct. Bat walked in front, kicked open the wind grill inside the dock, and jumped in. Anaconda and G followed closely behind. Everything in front of them stunned them. The entire spaceship was illuminated by lights as bright as day, and dozens of robots were busy inside and outside the spaceship. Some robots were assembling various laser weapons for various spaceships on the dock, and other robots were installing equipment on the hull of the spaceship. They were very efficient. However, facing the three uninvited guests, they seemed to be unaffected, and did not even issue any alarms. The three of them were relieved when they saw that there was no one, and walked towards the spiral staircase in a swagger. In fact, Carlos had already seen them in the cockpit. This guy didn't need to sleep. It copied a clone system and connected it to the optical computer on the Count Dracula. This large optical computer was very powerful and ran at a high speed. It was bought by Xia Xingchen for 8 billion star coins. If you buy such an optical computer in the Galactic Empire, it would cost about 4 billion star coins. in the Northern Empire. Although the price doubled, Xia Xingchen got a great bargain for this price. Carlos used the optical computer of the spacecraft to command the robot to continue to transform the spacecraft, and he used 95% of the computing resources of the main body to crack the central optical computers of various planets and government departments in the Northern Empire. Now he has cracked 10% of the optical computers in the entire Northern Empire LAN. When he saw a few obviously unfriendly visitors, he stopped the calculation, immediately issued an alarm to notify the others on the ship, and took over the control of the robot. Issued a few instructions. The 3 people including Anaconda were about to walk to the gangway when they suddenly felt that something was wrong around them. The robots who were working hard suddenly stopped their actions. They all stood up straight. They faced the 3 people in unison and then unloaded the universal mechanical maintenance arm on their arms in unison. Some robots equipped with special arms simply removed their arms and took out 2 mechanical arms from their backs to install them. Then, the white indicator lights on all the robots' eyes suddenly turned red, and then there was a continuous sound of clang. It turned out that alloy blade claws popped out from the backs of the robots' hands. And those robots that didn't use blade claws picked up large wrenches, iron rods, water pipe pliers and other tools in their hands. Even though these 3 people had killed countless people and experienced hundreds of battles, they were terrified when they saw this scene. They showed their weapons one after another. Although their bodies have been modified, if they directly confront these steel monsters with their flesh, they would definitely be crazy. G's weapon turned out to be alloy blade claws. At this time, his body curled up like a leopard, ready to give his opponent a fatal blow. Fu's weapon was a pair of recurve scimitars, and the blue blades were shining with cold light, and Anaconda's weapon was a long whip twisted into a steel wire. Chapter 398 Transformation. Carlos was in high spirits when faced with 3 intruders who had revealed their weapons. Xia Xingchen ordered him to command the robots to test the strength of the 3 and consume their physical strength. This was an encounter, and Xia Xingchen was very careful. He did not want any of his companions to get hurt. Carlos seemed to have obtained a new toy and was very excited. He quickly issued an order to attack. All the sound equipment on the robots sounded at the same time. Alarm, alarm, there are intruders. Order, expel the intruders. The speakers of hundreds of robots suddenly turned to maximum power, and they shouted in unison. The powerful noise brought unbearable destruction to the people. Attack. As Carlos issued the order, hundreds of robots pounced on the 3 people. Fu and Ji used their speed advantage to dodge and move, but with more than 100 robots piled together, the robots were not afraid of accidental injuries. Their attacks were simple and direct, and the blade claws on their arms directly grabbed the vital points of several people. The recurve short knife and blade claws hit the robot, leaving only a white mark and bursts of sparks. The robot's claws left 3 bloody marks on their bodies. Their strengthened bodies were a joke under the robot's powerful attack. Especially the weapon of the Anaconda, the long whip, was like a tickle to the robots. The robots didn't feel any pain when they were hit, and the whip didn't even leave a white mark on their bodies. He wanted to use the whip to roll up the robot and throw it to both sides, only to find that he couldn't pull the robot at all. After the robots rushed forward, he sadly found that there was no space to swing the whip. In just a dozen seconds, several people were injured to varying degrees. Transform, there's no time. If this goes on, we will all die here. The Anaconda shouted, and his body suddenly changed. Snake-like scales grew on the surface of his body, his eyes became like snakes, his body and limbs swelled, and his height reached more than 3 meters. A snake-like tongue came out of his mouth. It threw away the whip in its hand. His left hand grabbed a robot's neck, and his right hand punched the robot's head. The robot was caught in midair, and the blade claws on both hands scratched the Anaconda's body, but facing the scales, the blade claws could not hurt the Anaconda at all. Bang! Sizzle, the robot's head was hit by the Anaconda's right fist, and a head with wires flew out. Then he raised his foot and kicked another robot away. G also transformed at this time. His height grew to about 2.5 meters. His body was covered with long yellow hair, sharp claws grew on his hands, and a steel whip-like tail grew behind him. The hair on mammals is not for decoration. The hair follicles and hair roots at the end of the hair can tightly grasp the sebum layer below. This makes the mammals look like they have a layer of armor. So humans can often see lions, tigers and other animals fighting and playing with their claws, but they usually can't hurt each other. This is the credit of their thick hair. If some stupid humans are not convinced, they can try to let these big cats scratch them, and they will definitely end up with their intestines ripped open. After the transformation, G moved very quickly. The blade claws in his hands pierced into the visual detectors on the heads of the robots one by one, causing heavy losses to the robots. The transformation of Bad was even more shocking. His eyes turned blood red, and a pair of fangs in his mouth stretched out. His speed suddenly increased by more than 2 times, and he actually left a trail of after images in the pile of robots. 10 minutes later, more than 50 robots fell to the ground, most of which lost their functions because of being hit in the head. The 3 people looked at the wreckage on the ground breathlessly, thinking that they had won. When they looked up, they found that there were more than 50 robots blocking their retreat. Both the alloy door and the ventilation duct were blocked by the robots. What's more annoying is that these people did not take the initiative to attack, but picked up the tools in their hands and even the remains of their companions and smashed them hard at the 3 people. Although the 3 people's bodies were much stronger after the transformation, it was still painful to be hit by those steel objects. The 3 people were almost unable to control their anger at this time. They really lost a lot this time, and wasted a precious opportunity to transform. The so-called transformation is that people who have undergone animal genetic modification temporarily release the genes of the beasts in their bodies, and give full play to the blood power of these beasts. Each transformation can last for about an hour. During this hour, they will gain the power of the beast genes in their bodies and even special abilities, becoming extremely powerful. But this transformation has a price. According to their current level, they can only transform 3 or 4 times at most. Because every time they transform, the beast genes in their bodies will squeeze out their human genes. After the transformation, some of these beast genes will remain. If they transform a certain number of times, the beast genes will completely take the upper hand and kill the human genes in their bodies, and they will lose all their sanity and become beasts who only know how to kill. Moreover, after each transformation, they will fall into a weak period of several days. They have used the transformation skills before, and perhaps in the next transformation, they will completely turn into beasts. To escape this fate, they can only work twice as hard for the organization in exchange for the mythical potion. This mythical potion is extracted from the essence of the superpowers. After taking this potion, their bodies will become stronger, the transformation time will be longer, and it can offset the invasion of the beast gene, which means that there will be more opportunities to transform. As for the transformation of vampires, it is achieved by consuming their own original blood. Although the side effects are not as great as those of the beast gene, it will also greatly damage the vitality and strength, and even need to sleep for a long time to make up for it. If it is against ordinary opponents, Bat can also replenish energy by sucking their blood to reduce side effects, but in front of them, or La robots, Bat is simply crying without tears. Anaconda, the retreat is blocked, what should we do? G said breathlessly. Then drag out the bugs hiding in the spaceship to control these robots and kill them. Anaconda spit out his tongue and made a hissing sound. Let's go quickly, I smell the smell of blood, I'm so hungry. Bat also echoed. At this time, Xia Xingchen and others including Carlos gathered in the living room of Count Dracula. Seeing the scene outside, Xia Xingchen ordered, Carlos, Kenichi Miyamoto, you go, and Yama, the 4 of you, take your weapons, and go out with me to deal with them. The others stay in the spaceship. Nina, you stay here to protect everyone. Although Nina, Keeley and even Baum wanted to go out to see the excitement, no one disobeyed Xia Xingchen's orders. He just had such a charm. Everyone, prepare carefully, don't worry, I have a gift for them. Carlos laughed sinisterly. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 399 Gift. In the dock of the Count Dracula spaceship at Gemini 5 space station in the Northern Empire, 3 people from the mysterious organization Chosen One, after using their transformation skills, fought for more than 10 minutes and finally defeated the 50 robots that besieged them. However, they found that their retreat had been blocked by the robots. And those damn robots kept picking up objects on the ground and throwing them at them from a distance. After a brief discussion, they decided to attack the people in the spaceship directly and kill the people who controlled the robots, and their dilemma was solved. Xia Xingchen and his friends were ready to go out to fight, but Colossus smiled and said he would give everyone a gift. After the transformation, the 3 people walked towards the spaceship like 3 huge beasts. Suddenly, all kinds of strange noises came from around them. The 3 people immediately stopped to explore the surrounding situation, and they saw a scene that made them horrified. The robots that had just been beheaded stood up and surrounded the 3 people with weapons. What was even more terrifying was that some robots were violently split in half from the waist, which was the masterpiece of the powerful boa. As a result, the robot's 2 legs below the waist actually struggled to stand up. The upper body of such a robot, with a red light flashing on its head, supported its body with 2 arms and quickly crawled towards the 3 people. The scene at this time was quite like in a horror zombie movie, where a brave human warrior tried his best to kill his opponent, and when he was exhausted, he found the enemy's corpse and body remains crawling towards him. At this time, the people in the living room were already laughing, especially seeing the innocent and helpless eyes of the 3 people. Waves of hearty laughter filled the Count Dracula. This was the gift prepared by Carlos. The head of an ordinary humanoid robot is an integrated sensor and control center. As long as the head is hit hard, the robot will be paralyzed. But after Carlos left the underground base and entered Xia Xingchen's artificial intelligence space, he redesigned and transformed these robots because they were supplied with sufficient energy. Almost every part of the body has a separate control chip and communication chip. Now they are controlled, not by their own control computers, but by Colossus using the optical brain of the Count Dracula. Although they had no detectors, they could share the vision of other robots and cameras throughout the dock through data links. Anaconda and the other 3 vented all their anger on these scraps of copper and iron. They smashed them hard and almost tore off the limbs of every robot before they stopped. Carlos even controlled the torn robot arms and used his fingers as legs to run around the 3 people, which made the 3 people so disgusted that they could not bear it. Finally, there were no more robots that could move. Looking at the scraps of copper and iron on the ground, the 3 people were on the verge of collapse. They stood there, breathing heavily and recovering their strength. At this time, the hatch of the spacecraft opened and 5 people walked down the gangway. A very strange robot, 2 humans and 2 blue-skinned Terami people. The 5 people stood at the bottom of the gangway and seemed not to pay attention to the 3 murderous monsters in front of them. They were still arguing about something. Anaconda and the other 3 stared at them with disgust, and in their hearts, they were thinking about how to torture the 5 people in front of them. But when they heard what Xia Xingchen and the others were talking about, they were so angry that their lungs exploded. Xia Xingchen, brothers, there are only 3 monsters. How do we divide them? There are more wolves than meat. Miyamoto Kenichi pointed at the bats one by one. The wingless bat with a knife must be a swordsman. Leave him to me. Yugo glanced at Yanma, smiled, and said to Xia Xingchen, leave the 2-legged big cat to me. The warriors of Terami are very experienced in dealing with such beasts. Xia Xingchen nodded. Leave the basilisk to me. These 3 are just the minions of the Chosen One. It doesn't matter whether they live or die. Just kill them directly. At this time, the 3 were already extremely angry, especially when they heard that they already knew the details of the Chosen One. They were even more murderous. Go to hell. G, who had the most explosive temper, rushed forward, and Yugo stepped forward to fight with 2 daggers in his hands. And Kenichi Miyamoto had already rushed towards Bat with both hands on the hilt of the dagger. Under the spaceship, only Xia Xingchen, who was holding Ningxiang, was in a tense confrontation with Anaconda. At this time, in the living room of the Count Dracula spaceship, everyone was nervously watching the situation outside through the monitor screen. The first collision was between Bat and Kenichi Miyamoto. Bat originally had a good idea, He wanted to use his huge speed advantage to dodge Kenichi Miyamoto's attack, and then use his sharp blade to gently scratch Kenichi Miyamoto's throat, and the hot blood would spray out with the gas in his lungs. That is a delicacy in the world, the freshest human blood, and Bat is really hungry. However, when the two sides were still 5 or 6 meters apart, Kenichi Miyamoto made a move. Sword drawing technique. Delang at the moment, when the two Miramasa swords were unsheathed, or 3-meter long sword energy slashed diagonally towards Bat. Bat never thought that he would be attacked at such a distance. He tapped the ground with his right foot, and his body left a residual shadow. Miyamoto Kenichi's sword light slashed on the residual shadow. Bat secretly said that it was a close call, but he had just avoided the fatal sword when the second sword light arrived. Miyamoto Kenichi used 2 swords. The 2 sword lights were extremely powerful, and they were stacked one after the other. That's why they are called Delang. All the hairs on Bat's body stood up at this time. Of course, this is just a metaphor. Humans whose bodies have been transformed by the vampire virus have no hair. In order to avoid the first knife, he moved to the left at a very fast speed, and the second sword light was actually very insidious and hid in his dodging route. Mang subconsciously leaned sideways and lowered his head. It was this subconscious action that saved his life. The blade that was originally slashing towards his skull grazed his scalp, and a piece of scalp with flesh and hair and an ear flew out. After the scalp and the ear left the vampire's body and fell to the ground, they dried up and shrank quickly, and soon it was impossible to see its original appearance. There was also a pool of black blood on the ground, which was the vampire's blood. Chapter 400 Original Blood. Vampires are very strange creatures. They are definitely not human beings, and they are not much like other creatures. Instead, they are a collection of vampire viruses. The 2 parts that were cut out of the bat's body just now are both made up of viruses. Vampire viruses also have a very strange characteristic. When trillions of vampire viruses form a complete vampire, these viruses will penetrate the most essential substance in the virus through the protein membrane on the surface of the virus, and eventually form a drop of red liquid in the vampire's body. Vampires call this essence of the virus original blood. The more powerful the vampire, the larger the volume of the original blood in the body. For a weak vampire like the bat, the volume of the original blood in the body is only the size of a grain of rice. Some powerful vampires are said to have original blood in their bodies that can reach the size of an egg or even a walnut. As the essence of the vampire virus, original blood is of great significance to vampires. First of all, original blood is a source of power for vampires. The larger the volume of original blood, the stronger the power of the vampire. When the amount of original blood accumulates to a certain level, it can even undergo a qualitative change, giving the vampire some special abilities. Second, original blood is the only way for vampires to inherit. Many people have misunderstanding that being bitten by a vampire will turn them into vampires. In fact, being bitten by a vampire or even the vampire virus directly entering the human body will not cause people to become vampires or be infected with the vampire virus. The only way to be infected with the vampire virus is to inject a sufficient amount of original blood into the human body so that humans can be infected with the virus and become vampires after undergoing that period of body transformation. In the ancient myths and legends of the earth, it is said that after those vampires bite people, sometimes a drop of their blood is sent into the human body through their teeth, and this person will become a vampire, and this later vampire becomes the descendant of the vampire who gave him blood. That drop of blood is not ordinary blood. The blood of a vampire is black, and the drop of blood at the time of the first embrace is red, which is actually the original blood. Of course, the original blood is not something that can be given casually. It is the essence and source of power of the vampire. Without the original blood, the vampire will be seriously injured, and its strength will be greatly reduced. The amount of original blood required to infect an adult with the vampire virus requires at least the size of a soybean. In other words, even if this bat is squeezed dry, he will not even be qualified for the first embrace. The third point, and the most important point, is that the original blood is the life of the vampire. Every vampire will hide the original blood in different parts of the body. Even if the body or limbs are cut off, or even the head is cut off, As long as the original blood is still there, and the amount is sufficient, the original blood will continue to split and grow into a complete vampire. And those virus aggregates that leave the body and cannot be nourished by the original blood will quickly wither and die like the bat's ears just now. The reason why the ancient legend says that vampires are said to be unkillable is because those people did not harm the original blood in the vampire's body. The original blood can continue to split into new viruses to repair the vampire's body. This misleads the masses who do not know the truth that vampires cannot be killed. There is also a saying that cutting off the head or heart of a vampire will kill them. This is also a big joke. This is actually just a coincidence. Those vampires happened to hide their original blood in the head or heart, and the result was that the vampire was destroyed, which led to the death of the vampire. The bat with its ears cut off screamed and jumped far away. Although it was not a fatal injury, it was very painful. It was already afraid at this time, but it didn't know that Miyamoto Kenichi would not give up and soon appeared in front of it again. 2 swords. Falling petals. 2 swords. Cut the moon. Miyamoto Kenichi's sword skills have formed their own system. As long as he has the upper hand in momentum, he will form a chain of sword skills like a storm. If the opponent keeps dodging, he will be forced into a dead end sooner or later. Bat was already exhausted at this time. Although it moved quickly, it was surrounded by the sword energy. Its clothes were torn into pieces by the sword energy, exposing its ugly black body. At this point in the battle, Bat's physical strength has reached its limit. They are not creatures with strong endurance. The effect of the transformation is basically about to expire. They will soon return to their original form or even enter a long period of weakness. 2 sword style. Spinning top. Miyamoto Kenichi suddenly used his left foot as the axis and flew up horizontally. 1 knife, 2 knives. Bat struggled to control his body and barely dodged the 2 knives, but immediately after the 2 knives, Miyamoto Kenichi kicked him in the stomach. Bat was kicked 4 or 5 meters away, flying in the air and losing his balance. In midair, Bat raised his head and a flash of fire illuminated his face. 2 sword style. Firebird. The huge firebird engulfed the poor vampire, and Bat's body hit the wall behind him heavily, then fell to the ground and stopped moving. At this time, the battle between Yugo and G also entered a white-hot stage. Yugo's dagger caused great trouble to G. G simply threw away the blade claws and fought completely relying on the instinct of the beast. For Wugo, this was a very good opportunity to practice the broken gold technique. Although the martial arts that Zyumo taught Wugo used short daggers as weapons, they were extremely powerful. Even though G's body was protected by thick fur, G did not dare to touch the 2 short daggers easily. But the most realistic problem now was that its transformation was about to end, and it could only desperately consume the original blood in its body to hold on. In the next round, Wugo's body turned around, and the 2 daggers infused with true energy flew towards G's head and chest one after another. G dodged very awkwardly, and even sat on the ground without caring about his image, to avoid the fatal second knife. But Wugo had already pounced on him at this time. He raised his arms and smashed G hard with the bone spurs on his elbows. G raised his hands, or his front paws, and held Wugo's arms tightly, then opened his bloody mouth and bit Wugo's throat. Wugo was fighting a fierce battle with G. The 2 were fighting fiercely, both using all their strength. Suddenly, Wugo threw out the alloy daggers in both hands. He had practiced the broken gold technique for a long time, and he didn't want to continue fighting. He wanted to make a quick decision and support Xia Xingchen. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.